outvoted. Let's do Raw.
Yeah, you're outvoted 2-1. No, wait, 1-2.
All right. Taker came out for a promo, said at WrestleMania he was going to take Brock to deep water, which made me laugh because that's the exact line he said after Brock lost to Cain Velasquez in UFC. He was rambling on a bit and finally was about to stop when Brock and Heyman interrupted. Heyman said all the pressure was on Taker. Fans were chanting for CM Punk. And Brock did a slow tease of entering the ring. Then he did another slow tease of entering the ring. And then a third time he came down and did a full lap around the ring. And finally, he got in there and they got physical. Heyman distracted Taker, and Brock hit a clothesline and an F5 to lay him out. And finally, for the first time in this feud, Brock got heat.
Yeah.
It was the best thing they've done in this lousy feud.
Talk about drawing this thing out.
I couldn't have been the only one that cringed when Taker hit the mat. That looked...
expecting him to fall apart.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically,
break into a million pieces.
Well, yeah. Big E wrestled Alberto Del Rio and lost again. It was not a squash this time. He had a bunch of cool power moves, power bombed his way out of the armbar, and then Del Rio made a comeback and won clean with a super kick. So yeah, now that I think about it, Del Rio was the babyface here. He conquered the monster.
All to set up the Battle Royal.
Yeah, and Big E just loses again. I don't understand the point of this belt. Many things about this company are over my head today.
Well, the title match will be at the next pay-per-view. That's the idea.
Extreme Rules?
Yes.
They keep burying Big E, and I thought he had a little bit of steam behind him, and all of a sudden the rug's been pulled out from underneath him. You're just agreeing, no conversation.
I don't know.
Right.
Under the ad.
You're not wrong. Wyatt family had a scary promo, like scarier than usual. And Bray repeated his claim that the world would see Cena as Bray saw him, as a monster. So his goal is to turn Cena heel somehow. Here's my theory about this. His goal is to make Cena so desperate that he gets ultra violent. And this maybe will get people to boo him, which I realize is comedy because they've been booing him for 10 years. But that's what I think Bray wants out of this.
I took it more as Bray, he thinks that John Cena sees himself as a hero. And Bray wants to turn him to the dark side so he can just be the dark John Cena that he should be.
I think that
Yes.
Bray thinks he's a fake hero, and he wants to expose him to the world.
I see. That's good.
Largely because that's what he says in all his promos.
Ah,
That's true, too. They recap Natalya and Summer Rae from Total Divas. I cannot escape that show.
Oh, no.
Then Summer Rae wrestled Natalya. Summer came out without Fandango, and they did not have her cool NXT theme, which I was going to be pissed off about, but I actually like the song they used for her, so that's fine.
Her NXT theme?
It's the same theme that Sasha...
Oh, yeah.
Actually, I think Sasha uses a different one. She has a theme in NXT that I like, and this is not it. Here was where Vicky said the Divas match at the Mania would be one fall, four finish, which sounds like a complete disaster to me. But
Everybody in the ring at the same time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Trying to pin each other.
We're talking everybody. Rosa Mendez.
Yes. Aksana.
The Orbital Breaker.
Oh, yeah.
Is there 14 girls in this match?
There are 14 eyes to break.
28.
28. Oh, one's broken. 27.
Math is hard.
Math is hard.
Actually, it's not broken. She's perfectly healed now.
Oh, there you go. So I figured, you know what, I had to sit through Total Divas, but at least Natty getting more matches on Raw, that's a positive. And as soon as I typed that, Natalya tried a double leg and fell on her ass. And so Summer was laying on her back, and Natalya went to pick her up, and Summer, from her back, hit a kick to the head and then pinned her.
Mm-hmm.
Odd.
Was I the only one that thought this kick sucks?
I was just going to say that kick was horrendous.
Maybe that's part of why I thought it was
Dave
so odd.
was trying to convince me that it was not a weak kick.
No, it was a weak kick.
That's what I thought.
Dave is wrong.
The Hell in Fleas came out for a segment that I thought was awesome.
Oh, this was masterful trolling.
This was great. So it's Hunter and Steph, and you've never seen them so happy. So the fans were happy to jump on a fad. They brought up Fandangoing, how that had been the hottest thing in the world 1 year ago, and then the fans turned on it, even though he was a quality talent. Fans were chanting CM Punk here. They said anyone could get the fans to chant yes, and then they proved it by getting the fans to chant yes. Said Bryan would not be there tonight. Hunter says, everyone claims that I only have power because I married well, but I am a success because of my own dominance. There were boring chants here. He ignored them. He blasted right through them.
He did note he married very successfully.
And kissed her on the lips, yes. But he said he'd been beating up flavors of the month for the last decade. Had an amazing video of past flavors of the month, such as Booker T and Scott Steiner and Rob Van Dam, Jeff Hardy, Goldberg, Mick Foley, Chris Jericho, Kurt Angle. And the whole thing was narrated by Stephanie. He's talking about all the ways you can grab fans' attention. You can dance like Booker T. You can flex like Scott Steiner. You can pose like RVD. You can do something crazy like Jeff Hardy. On and on and on. And doesn't matter what you do, Hunter will kill you.
Yep.
He will turn your false idols into rubble and break your hearts. And this is in line, by the way. I talk all the time about the horrible dialogue they have in promos. If the same horrible dialogue in a video like this, I don't mind. It's not even horrible dialogue in that context, because it's supposed to be over the top and dramatic. So he's broken the fans' hearts over and over again, and he was going to do the same to the latest hero, Bryan at Mania. And they cut back to the ring. Hunter buries the fans for crying. He vowed to leave WrestleMania, to leave Bryan, leave Orton, and Batista in his wake, and he would be champion once more. So great. So then Big Dave interrupted. They were in his hometown of Washington, D.C., and he was wearing a Georgetown basketball jersey, so he got at least a mixed reaction. Said Hunter had never beaten him. Hunter said, yes, you say the same thing every week. Dave said Hunter should worry about beating Daniel Bryan because you're the brains of the operation and Stephanie is the brawn. Then Orton came out, sucked up to the Helmsleys for a while, said he wanted to watch Steph slap Dave again. He tried to weasel his way into asking Hunter to back out of the title match. Hunter told him to stop sucking up, but then gave him a pep talk. Said, you'll have to be the Viper again if you want to beat me. And finally, he booked... Orton and Dave had already been announced. He made it a no DQ match. And that was that. And the stuff with Dave and Orton was very good, but it paled in comparison to what came before that. The stuff with Hunter and Steph was so out of this world great. And I've never been a fan of Stephanie McMahon. I've always hated her. Craig is pointing to her appearance at WrestleMania and trying to rebut. But I never thought she was a good performer, but she's been very good over the past several months, and she was awesome here. She was so great, and Hunter was so great. The only problem with any of this is that the main event of WrestleMania is going to be Hunter versus Daniel Bryan, and anything that happens after that is going to be anticlimactic.
Well, you could... Let me think about this. You could do a deal where Bryan wins and Hunter makes himself the referee for the main event.
That's possible.
But going back to this, I have been very critical of Mr. H in the past, many times during his career, throughout his career. But this guy is awesome. This guy is... Between this and his selling for Daniel Bryan at the end of the show...
Yes.
This dude knows what he's doing. Yes, he did marry spectacularly, as he said. But you know what? Extremely talented guy. Amazing promo. He understands this business. You can question some of his decisions in the past. But, goddamn, him and Stephanie both over the last month have been incredible. Absolutely incredible. This was great.
I actually went back and watched this entire segment twice in a row. Just amazing. Los Matadores and the Usos versus Real Americans and Axelback. These poor guys were in a death spot. Nobody was going to care about them after that promo. So, the good news is, it went on for a while, and by the end, people really knew it, and the last 2 or 3 minutes were great, great stuff. Broke into an 8-way, and guys were flying all over the place. And finally, the Matadors did a Killer Bees-style switcheroo and pin swagger. And no dissension, really, among the heel teams or the babyface teams. So they all just worked together, and now they're going to have a 4-way on the tag on the pre-show. So not sure how that builds, but I guess in the long run it doesn't really matter. This was fine.
One of the Matadors missed a dive badly, or mistimed a dive badly.
Oh, God, and Cesaro saved his life.
Jeez, he had to take like 3 steps up to catch the kid. Yeah, it was, my son was very tickled at the fact that they pulled the switcheroo, never seeing the killer bees or anything like that. So it was something new to him. He'd never seen that before.
This guy says Triple H is going to cheat and beat Bryan, and then Vince will add Bryan to the main event. No.
I don't think so.
No.
I've had a close idea, was that Triple H will cheat and beat Bryan.
No.
But then Vince will come out and restart the match.
No. No. If they're going to do this with Bryan, he's beaten everybody. Just like he did at the end of Raw. Don't fuck this up now.
Ultimate Warrior has a new DVD coming out, including, of course, himself cutting promos and stuff. It's just bizarre to see him now in a WWE environment. Fandango and Damian Sandow against the Rhodes Brothers. Announcers zoned out here and started telling jokes about Jerry Lawler having a heart attack and dying, and Michael Cole doing nothing to help him. That's what JBL was joking about. So nobody cared about the match. Goldust made a fun comeback. Cody wiped out Fandango with a dive, and Goldust pinned Sandow with a spinning suplex. I can't believe they have nothing better for the Rhodes than a Battle Royal. And here was where, because I did watch Raw first, here they aired the Battle Royal graphic, and Rey Mysterio flashed by, and I thought, shouldn't that be a bigger deal?
Nope.
The answer, I guess, is no. Perhaps I'm wrong. Shield cut a good promo and came backstage. They all vowed to win at Mania. Truth versus Bray Wyatt. In hindsight, Truth put up a much better fight than the Big Show did.
I have no idea why this went so long.
This went forever. My favorite part was when JBL referred to Truth as a tough, young superstar.
41.
Wikipedia said 42.
42.
That would make him a month older than the Big Show. So Bray won. And this went too long, and it was late in the show, and I was zoning out, and then the finale was phenomenal. So Bray's in the spotlight, and he's down on his knees. And he's got Harper standing there looking all scary over one shoulder, and Rowan in his sheep mask standing there all scary over the other shoulder with a gap in between them. And then out of the shadows steps a fourth man in his sheep mask. And he just walks up and stands there between them. And it took them a while to notice. And then they did, and they were confused. And they stared at the man in the sheep mask. And the man in the sheep mask stared back at them. And one by one, they all just exchanged confused glances. And they gave this plenty of time. They did not rush through this. They let this marinate with the fans. And finally, the fourth man pulled off a sheep mask. It was, of course, John Cena. He kicked all their asses, and Bray was able to escape the AA and run up the top of the ramp. And Cena celebrating in the ring. Great angle!
It was very good.
He, when he had the sheep mask on, he's standing in the middle, and he looks at Rowan first, and Rowan cocks his head to one side like a confused animal would do.
Like a sheep.
Yeah, and John does the same thing, and then does the same thing on the other side to Harper, and it was tremendous. I loved that. Loved it.
It was great. We saw what I thought was a great Brock Lesnar hype video for Mania. It was, in fact, a great Brock Lesnar hype video for UFC Fight Pass.
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar. By the end of this, I was way more excited to watch a bunch of old Brock Lesnar UFC fights than I was to watch Brock wrestle The Undertaker at Mania.
With Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, and Jim Ross talking about him on Fight Pass.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
what a coup.
They have completely butchered Brock Lesnar. It's amazing. Naomi versus AJ in a Lumberjills match. AJ was out there, so there was a chance for Punk. Naomi might have the best dropkick in the company right now. So every time AJ got thrown out, they all rushed over to throw her back in. But when Naomi got thrown out, they all gave her time to recover. No one cared about this, but it was pretty good. And finally, of course, a giant brawl broke out on the floor, and AJ got thrown back in the ring, and Naomi pinned her with the rear view.
they're going to have all these girls in the ring at one time. And
Where have you been?
I'm still trying to make sense of this. They're going to have.
Wait. You tried to make sense of this?
Okay. You've been in a battle royal, correct?
I've tried to forget it.
Yes. And so have I, and so has Vinny. And what was the number one rule with Tim Flowers in a battle royal?
No bumps in a battle royal.
No bumps in a battle royal. So they're going to do pinfalls?
No.
One pinfall.
One pinfall.
And where is the ref going to be stationed with these 14 girls in the ring?
Wherever it is, it'll be a good spot.
That's true, actually. Can you sign up for this somewhere?
So, do you have a resume?
Craig's the Jerry Lawler of this show.
I could get one. I could type something up.
Why don't you do that, and I'll see what I can do.
Can you demonstrate the ability to count to 3?
That's what we need is a match with a bunch of 90-pound women and then Craig.
They could take bumps off of me.
Sure.
Or onto me.
It'd be safer for them to take bumps onto you.
Why don't you lay down and I'll just jump on you like a bouncy castle?
Oh.
Move on, Vinny.
Renee,
Whenever he starts getting randy, we just got to move on.
Unfortunately, moving on, he's talking about Renee Young. It may not change his mind. So
He doesn't like blondes.
I see. She was interviewing John Cena backstage. He got a great promo, shouting about how on Sunday he was going to secure his legacy, even if he had to be a monster, and nobody could afford to miss this. It's actually the best plug for the show. Brief clip with the experts panel of Booker T, Alex Riley, and Bad News Barrett. Barrett's bad news was the Wyatts were going to cheat and beat John Cena. Kane versus Roman Reigns. They had fan voting to see which member of the Shield would face Kane, and Roman got 80% of the vote.
That should surprise nobody.
It's a lot.
It didn't surprise my wife. She thinks Roman Reigns is handsome.
I'm sure she's not alone.
Yeah, probably.
So Reigns was squashing Kane. The Outlaws sauntered down to ringside, and Rollins and Ambrose appeared and jumped them from behind. And then they all just triple teamed Kane to death. So Kane technically won via DQ, but Reigns didn't care. They just wanted to beat him up. And they were about to hit him with a triple power bomb, and the Outlaws pulled him to safety. And this is one of those wins where usually it's bad news to go over this strong before the pay-per-view. But we'll see. Roddy Piper came out for Piper's Pit. 29 years to the day after he main evented the first WrestleMania. He was sure to point out that he was never pinned on that show. He said there was one man who was a huge reason that show was a success, and I seriously thought he was going to say Mr. T. But no, it was Andre the Giant.
WrestleMania 1?
Yeah. Well, he's going to the Hall of Fame this year. It would have made sense. So, I'm going to cut to the chase. A bunch of guys came out and said they were going to win the Battle Royal. And then a fight broke out. Ray came out to his music. And then Show came out to his music, and it came down to those two in a stare down. Ray begged for mercy. Show granted it. Which amused me. And then, of course, Ray attacked him from behind, and Show ended up pressing him out onto the floor and everyone. So, Big Show, once again, the favorite for the Battle Royal.
Was it last year we were supposed to get Sin Cara and Rey Mysterio in the match?
Well, last year, this year.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
They brawled. It was.
They did have a brief to-do.
Yes, sir. And this is when it was when I realized, oh my gosh, Rey Mysterio is in the Battle Royal, much like Vince.
Why in God's name is he surprising people? What the hell else has Rey Mysterio
I just
been
figured
doing?
he was nursing another
I figured
knee
they would
injury.
have made the announcement of his presence in the Battle Royal a bigger deal than it is.
Vinny, I'm afraid that you are living in the past.
Ray at this point is as big a star as, for example, Titus O'Neil.
Yes. That is a fact.
That's odd.
That's sad.
Doesn't bother you?
It's just the way things are.
Okay.
They've always been weird with Ray.
Well, that is true. By the way, the network just played the Men on a Mission music video. Amazing. That's all I can say. Main event was Batista versus Orton in a no DQ match. Go ahead.
Didn't you miss Piper's Pit?
No.
Where in the hell have you been?
We just talked about it.
We just talked about that. Andre the Giant, a big part of the success of WrestleMania 1.
I'm sorry. I'm reading.
Get off Twitter.
I'm not. Just hush.
At least you'd have an excuse if you were on our Twitter. What are you really looking at?
No, I actually
Renee Young?
No, she's blonde. No, I was looking at the segments on the TV report for Raw on your site, and missed that. I'm sorry. Carry on. Nothing to see here.
You're not listening to Vinny. You're reading the report.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Vinny.
I'm sorry, Vince.
Anyway, Dave versus Orton in the main event, no DQ. Brawled all over, whacked each other with chairs. Fans didn't really care, but they didn't turn on it either. So they're doing this match, and suddenly Daniel Bryan arrives. He comes through the crowd. He attacks Hunter at the ringside area. They brawl, and Bryan is handing him his ass. Orton tries to make the save, but that just leads to a three-way brawl in the ring. And Bryan dropped Dave with a knee strike. He gave Hunter a savage beating. And yes, as Bryan Alvarez noted, Hunter was bumping all over the place, tripping over the stairs, selling everything as Daniel Bryan lit into him. And the show ended with Bryan on the ropes, leading the crowd in yes chants. And it was good. It was what they should have done, but there have been a lot of times when Bryan's got a bigger reaction and come off as a bigger star than this moment.
Now, even before Bryan hit the ringside area, I thought this was the best Dave Bautista had looked, well, since he's come back.
That's probably true.
He looked really good. Now, he was in there with Orton.
He was fine on SmackDown. When he wrestled on SmackDown,
not
Sheamus?
like this. Not
he
like
was fine.
this.
Listen, Dave is 45 years old. He's got a ton of injuries. He's not an athlete. I think people are being too hard on Big Dave. I thought he looked good on SmackDown. He looked good here. And yes, the main event segment was awesome. And yeah, sure, sometimes Daniel Bryan's got better reactions, but it all depends on the city. It's not like the city was going nuts for Fandango and then was dying for Daniel Bryan.
No, you're right.
Still the hottest reaction of anybody on the show. And his post-match promo on the app was awesome.
The app, you say?
Yeah. Well, network,
Yeah.
Which you can see on the app.
That's true.
Yeah. Vinny, why don't you read Ed's thing here?
I don't think I got it. Craig got it.
You got it.
Did I get it?
Yep.
I didn't get it on my phone.
It's in.
For those of you curious, there are two airports in Houston. This is the George Bush Intercontinental Airport. That's what it's called.
Intercontinental.
That's what it's called.
Wow.
And I can pretty much safely say this is the worst place I have ever been. I announced this on Twitter at one point due to my frustration. And everyone who had been there pretty much replied, yep, sounds about right. So here's the deal. We had to do two things at this airport, and none of them were actually catch a plane or go through security or any of that. We had to exchange rental cars, drop off the one I had rented that day, and pick up the one I had reserved for the trip. And, of course, we had to get our bags. Now, because Alaska only has one... Actually, I'm going to get ahead of myself. The rental car thing was relatively easy. I had the drop-off for the rental car is complicated as hell, and National and Alamo use the same... I guess they're working together, and you drive around the parking lot. I think I literally did 2 full laps around the parking lot trying to find the place to drop this car off, because a lot of signs saying, Alamo drop-off this way. So you drive around the corner, it says, Alamo drop-off this way. You drive around the corner, and there's sign after sign, but then when you get to the actual entrance, there's not a sign. Eventually, I found it, dropped my car off, went inside to take care of paperwork. That's right. That took about a half hour because I had to try to find the... They had the reservation. They had all my personal info, but they did not have my flight info for my return flight home. And for some reason, they cannot give me a car without that. And this resulted in digging through email and changing passwords and a bunch of other garbage. Oh. And I couldn't do this on my computer because they did not have Wi-Fi in 2014 at an airport. That's finally done. Forgot about that part. So I get in my car. Now we go to get our bags. Alaska only has the one flight. So after like 5 o'clock, whatever it is, Houston time that it lands, they go home. And the airport doesn't have like one central baggage location. This has happened to me before. Your bag gets separated. And what they do is they just take all the bags and stick them in a little side room. And there's somebody who works at the airport who's in charge of this. Houston doesn't have that. So the Alaska people had taken our bags and given it to the Air Canada people. and said, watch this, somebody's going to come get her tonight. So I dropped Bridget off at the terminal. You know what? I'm getting ahead of myself again.
Oh, my God, Vinny.
I must go on. This is more important than WrestleMania. There's 5 terminals at this airport, A, B, C, D, and E, and if you're just driving around, there's no clue what is at these terminals. So we had to go like 2 or 3 of them before we found the right one. So I drop her off, and then the Air Canada people said, we have to go out on the tarmac for something. So I'm sitting in the cell phone lot. She's sitting at the counter, and we're all just sitting there. Finally, they get back. I go to pick her up to get our bags. Everything in this airport is miles and miles and miles apart, and none of it makes any sense, and no one knows where you're going. And as such, everyone there is just as pissed off as you. So everyone's cutting you off. Everyone's tailgating you. Everyone's trying to zip around you. Imagine being in a crowded shopping mall where every single person there is running as fast as they possibly can. That's what it's like driving at the Houston airport. So I finally got my new car. I finally got our bags, got in the car, and hit the road. 2 hours! A long and horrible 2 hours. And honestly, it was the only bad part of the trip. From there, we just drove on to New Orleans and got there at 5 a.m. and slept. That's my first horrible encounter at the Houston airport.
There's more?
There is more.
Maybe we'll save the other one for next year. How about that?
We'll see how it goes.
The only terrible thing I got to say about this trip, the only bad thing, is that I'll never, ever, ever go to the Superdome again. The bottleneck that we got stuck in for 20 straight minutes where a near riot broke out. And if you think I'm exaggerating, I promise you that there will be people that will go on the board and confirm this, because I was in this bottleneck with them. I already have a guy here on Twitter who said the only bad thing about the trip was going to get to the hallways of the Superdome. The worst. This was doom. This is the worst possible thing that could possibly happen to anybody inside a building, is to nearly be involved in a riot. And yeah. Aside from that, this trip was awesome. But because of that, and I was there, and people said this is not something that's only happened today. This has happened before in this building. I'll never go to the Superdome again, ever. Now, granted, there are people that wish that WWE would go back to New Orleans every single year for WrestleMania, because everybody had so much fun in New Orleans. But if they do, I'm not going back into the Superdome. You better hold Mania elsewhere. Horrible. Hideous.
So I was in the same crowd, the same near riot. The only funny part about it was there was a guy with a megaphone, and they were making announcements saying, basically, if you guys go to the other side of the building, there are no lines. And no one left.
No, you were in a different thing. You were trying to get inside the building. Mm-hmm. I'm talking inside the building, in the halls. There was an unmoving 20-minute bottleneck. Everybody pushing and shoving. They're screaming at each other. They're getting ready to get in a fight. If there had been a fight there, I mean, it'd have been bad. And it was, and the most infuriating thing was there's cops doing nothing. Unless somebody had pulled out a gun, they were just going to sit there and have everybody else do all the work. People chanting, go, 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 shoving each other, pushing. I mean, it was terrible. It was horrible. I've never been anything like that. And it sucked. But yeah, the bottleneck I didn't get in. We got there early. And when I finally got to my seats, the show was starting. It took me over 90 minutes to get from outside to my seat. No stops. Superdome sucks.
That does suck. Yeah, we had a bottleneck outside the building. I will say the guy with the megaphone was at least having fun with it, because the crowd started giving him the what treatment, and he was playing along. If you go, what? To the other side of the building, what? You will find, what? There are no lines there, what? So, everyone, at least that was fun. So we get inside, and they scan my ticket. Everything's cool. Scan Bridget's ticket. Won't scan, won't scan, won't scan, won't scan, won't scan. And finally, I basically said, look, my ticket's fine. This is clearly not a fake. Just let us in. And she basically agreed and let us go. This was a mistake. Because we got to our seat, and what we found is that one of them had been taken away from us for a big light. So Bridget ended up going all the way back down the 6 levels of the Superdome, where she was one of, I believe she said 50 to 60 she was fine, because she didn't really care about the show anyway, but there were about 50 or 60 pissed off people there, And a lot of them have been moved from the 100 and 200 levels up to the 600 level. So that sucked. And she actually didn't return until during the entrances for the Triple H Daniel Bryan match. So a lot of people, through no fault of their own, missed the first half hour of WrestleMania. Now, the first half hour was just a bunch of talking.
I suspect that those people will have free seats to WrestleMania in good spots next year.
That would be good.
That's what they did that one year that they were obstructed by a tree.
Maybe I'll get them then.
Well, you got to complain. You got to actually ask.
I'll see what I can do.
They're not just going to magically send them to you.
I wasn't sure how that worked. So we ended up getting moved. Actually, and both seats were fine. I actually take that back. Both seats were very good. The first seat was basically exactly opposite the stage. The only problem was that the screens above the ring were blocking the stage itself, and the other seats were more on the side and had a great view of everything, so that was fine. And then we saw the show, and the show was awesome.
Hell of a review.
All right, where are we here? Are we up to Mania already?
I just want to hear your review of Mania since you're already here.
All right. Mania was a hell of a show. You could argue which was the... I'll just go over the... I, of course, do not have notes since I was there, and I was trying to tweet out, but I was not getting much of a signal. I tried to tweet out how great the Battle Royal was.
I had a great signal the whole time. You just should have gotten to their Wi-Fi. It was free Wi-Fi.
I see.
And it was great. That's the one good thing. I'll say that's the one good thing about the Superdome. Free Wi-Fi, and it worked great.
So, anyway, I tried to send out a tweet about how great the Battle Royal was, and that tweet just disappeared into the ether. And the next time I check, there's someone saying, boy, I bet Bryan and Vinny are going to bury that Battle Royal.
Who would say that?
I don't know.
Battle Royal was awesome. The finish was great.
The finish was great, and a lot of it before that was great. We will go match by match. The opening half hour was the three biggest stars of the modern era, Hulk Hogan, The Rock, and Steve Austin, all in the ring at the same time, cutting promos. Everyone was happy about this. Everyone was very, very happy. And they all talked about how great they were, how great the fans were, how great WrestleMania was, and then they all left together, and everyone was happy. Triple H and Daniel Bryan, excellent match. A long match that felt like it deserved to go for a long time. I mentioned before going into this that I thought this was the real main event, and whatever happened in the title match was going to be anticlimactic. And that may have been going a little far. But I will say, the reaction when Bryan pinned Triple H at the end with a knee strike finally, you know, when you look down on the stadium floor, and there's seats, and then like behind the seats, there's a stadium wall, and in between there's a big space, 20 yards or so, 10 yards maybe. But when the ref counted 3, suddenly everyone didn't just jump out of their seat, but people were so filled with joy they began to sprint back and forth in that open space, just running everywhere, high-fiving strangers, hugging each other, boundless joy, and of course, unbelievable yes chants over and over again all night long. So really, by the time this match is over, I thought, you know, I've already got my money's worth. Whatever else happens, I can't complain. Shield squashed the New Age Outlaws and Kane. Only notable because they managed to do a double triple powerbomb for the finish. And of course, we later learned Billy Gunn got injured. But everyone loved this too. The Andre Battle Royal was awesome. As we usually say, most Battle Royals suck until you get down to like the last 4 guys. This Battle Royal, they actually did stuff where they would have 30-some guys or 20-some guys, however many were in there. Most of them would clear off to the sides and leave a little bit of room, and 3 or 4 guys would get to do something important that everyone could notice. So it wasn't just mad chaos. They had a spot where Cody Rhodes accidentally eliminated his own brother and then got knocked out. They had Kofi Kingston doing his this I think was his most ridiculous elimination tease yet. He got thrown over the top rope in the corner. His feet came down on the steps. His ass came down on the floor. This, of course, was not an elimination. How he pulled this off without twisting an ankle, I have no idea. And he got back in, only to later get eliminated anyway. And then finally, at the end, it came down to Cesaro and the Big Show, the overwhelming favorite against a guy who I guess was not even supposed to be in the match at first. Crowd was madly in love with Cesaro. Only wanted to see him win, booing Big Show for everything he did. And then finally, Cesaro just picked up Big Show for a body slam, carried him over to the ropes, and dumped him. A great elimination. And Big Show gave him a handshake. Cesaro posed with his new trophy. Everyone loved him. A massive success this was. John Cena versus Bray Wyatt. The only two things I've gone back to watch from the show on the network are this and the finish to the Taker match. I shouldn't say, by this, I specifically mean Bray Wyatt's entrance. I was not at the WrestleMania when Triple H faced Undertaker, and he had the Metallica music, and there was all the guys with the shields, and then Hunter came up in the silver armor under the bright spotlight. I can tell you on TV, that looked like the coolest entrance ever. I think Bray Wyatt's entrance may have topped it. The voodoo dancing, the live music, the singer in the voodoo makeup with a backup band of guys wearing Black Plague death masks, all in darkness, all coming out. And the key to this, all of that was captured very well on video. What was not captured well on video, and this is not necessarily their fault, because they mic'd it for the musical performance. But imagine all of this, and 70-some thousand people are all clapping in unison. This was so creepy, and so awesome, and so incredible, and so amazing. Maybe the coolest thing I've ever seen live at a wrestling show. This was great. Match itself, excuse me. I am going to have to go back and watch this at some point, because what I tweeted out was that it was a slow and went too long, and I got about a ton of feedback, and 90% of it was passionately disagreeing with me. 10% passionately agreed with me. But the only note I will share here was that Brutal Bob just told me, learn how to work. He was not happy with me for that opinion. It did tell a good story. As I said, the story was that Bray's goal was to turn John Cena heel by giving him many chances and many reasons to resort to extreme violence. Cena always turned them down. He would not hit Bray when he was down. He would not smash Bray with steps. He would not smash Bray with a chair. And Bray was getting more and more frustrated. And then finally, at the end, Cena just pinned him anyway. Which I thought kind of threw the whole thing away, but whatever. So they will keep feuding. I would think with the theme of the show, up and down the card, really, was that the younger guy beats the older guy. I think this was the one exception. And, well, I guess they just wanted Cena to win, to send the kids home happy. I'm talking for a long time uninterrupted.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I've reviewed the show 9 times.
I know you have. All right. Brock Lesnar versus The Undertaker. This was also long and slow. And by the standards of Undertaker WrestleMania matches lately, not particularly good. And
well, I said earlier today, I will jump in.
All right.
To be fair, the guy suffered a concussion very early on.
That is true.
And I actually feel really bad for him because I don't know if the match would have been a classic had he not suffered the concussion. My guess is no. But I've seen plenty of guys that have suffered concussions early and just had horrendous matches. And I don't know what he had left in him, but he'd been wanting to do this for years. And this was his chance to do what probably was his retirement match. It's unconfirmed. But I did talk to people who, I mean, they think for sure this is his last match.
Yeah.
And to go out there and in your last match, you suffer a concussion and you end up having a really bad match and the streak gets ended, that's too bad.
Yeah. So Taker kicked out of 2 F5s, and then Brock hit a third one. And I thought, wow, Taker's going to kick out of 3 F5s? And then a funny thing happened. He didn't. Brock covered him. The ref counted 3, and the match ended. And this, JBL made the comparison on Raw. I can only imagine this was similar to Bruno Sammartino losing to Ivan Koloff. Just stunned silence throughout the arena. No one really cheered. No one really booed. They were just blown away and flabbergasted by this. And Brock and Heyman left. And Taker did his best to milk his exit for a big reaction. Never really got one. I think mainly because the fans still could not believe what they saw. And in fact, the Undertaker chance did not start in earnest until well into the next match. So yeah, we saw history, everyone. The biggest win in a Mania. One of the biggest wins in Mania history. The ending of the streak when Brock Lesnar beat Undertaker. Girls came out. People chanted for Taker. Went on for a while. Literally all I remember about this is that AJ tapped out Naomi, I believe, with the Black Widow. And she mocked Vicky Guerrero. Was this Vicky's last show?
I don't know.
Dave said that at one point.
I've heard that she is. I was told she's done maybe this week, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see. That's a weird way to go out. I would figure they would do something for her.
Yeah, there's zero payoff other than just staring a hole through her.
By the way, I watched. I was on the airplane today, and I, honest to God, this is no exaggeration, and I'm positive that the number I'm giving is low. I met at least 250 to 300 wrestling fans or more since Thursday. I'm talking like talk to them for a period of time, not just like ran into a person with a shirt on. Absolute madness, the number of people that I ran into. Nothing like this ever. I mean, whenever I was in an area with wrestling fans, I mean, there was someone every 5 feet. I couldn't even believe it. But I was on the airplane today, and sure enough, someone came up. Oh, hey, blah blah blah, and then I find out everybody in my row and the row next to me had also been at WrestleMania, and everybody's talking about the show, and I went back and watched the Undertaker finish, and it was funny because of all the people that I talked to, and I talked to a lot of them about the Undertaker, because that's all anybody would ask when you saw him. Oh my God, what did you think of the Undertaker? And it appeared to me that we all had the exact same goddamn memory. And it was a memory that was not true. My memory, and all of these other people I talked to seem to have the exact same memory, that Brock hit this F5, and the Undertaker kicked out, and it looked like a botch, and they didn't ring the bell. And like person after person had the same memory. I don't know what it was. I don't know why. But I went back and I watched the match, and Brock Lesnar hits an F5. He pins the Undertaker clean as a sheet. Michael Cole calls it as the finish. They ring the bell, and there is no doubt in anyone's mind what happened. That is so completely different from my memory and the memory of so many people that I talked to there. It was a strange, it's like the Thunderbird photo. We're all remembering the same thing that didn't happen. I don't know if there was like, we were all in an alternate universe at the time. I mean, did you have that? Did you hear the bell? Did you see a kick out?
I don't remember hearing the bell. I definitely did not see a kick out. I was quite certain the ref had counted 3 and Brock Lesnar had won, which did make, it did make me, I don't want to say laugh, but all the feedback afterwards was either A, something went wrong, or B, the much, much, much funnier theory, Brock shot on him with an F5, or C, the most reasonable of these, that perhaps Taker called an audible literally at the last minute.
None of these happened.
No. That's the only one that is, like I said, that's the most plausible one. But no, from where I was, I just Brock pinned him, and all I could do was go, huh.
Here's Zach already on Twitter. Funny, I had the exact same memory until I went back and watched it. I guess we were all just hoping that it was a mistake.
It may have been something where your mind refused to accept what it was seeing and created your own reality, so you could to keep your sanity.
I mean, it's funny because everybody. I mean, I was standing there just looking around, and I talked to people. You know, I talked to people at the hotel. I talked to people at the plane. I talked to people here. I talked to people there. All say the exact same thing. Man, I thought for sure it was a botch. And then you go back and watch it, and it's like, this was, I mean, if you watched it on television, there was absolutely no question what happened. None. Like, absolutely nothing. But man, at the time, it was like everyone thought the ref screwed up, or Undertaker forgot to kick out, or he kicked out too late, or something got fucked up. It's just crazy. The memory versus the reality is just like, it's crazy. And no, this is not an audible. He did not shoot on him. I know that there's like a 5-page thread on the board about when people knew. I'm telling you as a fact. Remember we were on the walking tour? Were you there when I got that text?
I don't remember.
I got a text on the walking tour. It was like it was 3 Eastern, which would be 2 New Orleans time. And somebody there texted me, and they just said, be ready. And I was like, what? And they said, send me the link to the odds page. And so I sent them the link to the odds page, and then I was like, what's going on? And they wouldn't tell me anything. And so later, by that time, there were already people that knew. And so they were checking to see if the odds had swung yet. And the odds actually didn't swing until, I think, about 5 o'clock Pacific or when the show started, whenever the show started. So the idea that nobody knew, it's just not true. The odds they did a big swing. There were people that knew about the finish, and they knew earlier in the day. This is not like I'm making this up or someone's telling a story. I mean, this is a fact. People knew, and they went and they made some big bets, and some people won a lot of money. This is not some sort of secret. But I didn't know. I was as shocked as anybody when it actually happened. But later, it was explained to me, and it all made sense, and I saw the odds, and there you go. What I'm surprised is that nobody. I mean, the odds, there was a big swing, but I didn't hear anything about it until after the thing happened. So it's a very interesting day. That was the biggest surprise in wrestling in a long ass time.
I'm pretty sure that's legitimately the biggest upset in Mania history.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. It was a newsworthy day. That is true. Had a wacky skit backstage where Hulk Hogan and Mr. T, after all these years, finally shook hands with Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff's amazing mustache.
I got a T story. So T does his Hall of Fame deal, and Kane has to come drag him to the back. And so I was talking to somebody yesterday after the show, and I was like, "How's T?" And they were like, "Oh man, I saw him right after his Hall of Fame speech. He was all smiles backstage, seemed like he was fine, didn't seem upset or anything like that." And then, he came out at WrestleMania the next day, and, T seemed fine. Apparently, T is now burying the company on Twitter.
I see.
So now that he's gone, he's pissed. Let's find Mr. T's Twitter now.
There's an old episode of Raw. I think it has the same Steiner's match we reviewed before, from like 93. IRS is about to squash Scotty 2 Hotty. Pretty impressive. All right. Main event was, of course, Daniel Bryan winning the championship in the three-way, which we all knew he was going to do. And yet, 20 minutes into this thing, they were teasing near falls that had me legitimately fearing for my life.
In the Bryan match?
Yes.
Sorry, I was reading T here.
The one, I believe, they tossed Bryan.
It was the
ring.
RKO.
The RKO was one. There was one other that did one, but yes, Orton RKO Dave and made a cover. And for a second there, I thought I was going to be in the middle of a 70,000-man riot.
Dude, after I got stuck in that bottleneck, I was like, if Daniel Bryan does not win the title here tonight,
everyone dies.
I'm not getting out of this building, basically. It would have been bad. But then, of course, after Undertaker lost, it was like, there's no way Undertaker and Daniel Bryan are losing on the show, especially after the fury and the heartache and the tears after the Undertaker was beaten. This really happened, everybody. I'm not making this up. Anger, outrage, tears, and people storming out of the building. Not like millions of them or anything like that. Probably just a few dozen, but it happened.
People walked out of WrestleMania because the Undertaker lost. Let's think about that for a minute.
By the way, this is T. He's written about 9,000 tweets, but among them are, "I am very disappointed and saddened that you could not hear the rest of my speech. I was told my speech went too long. Really? Seriously?" And then he quotes Matthew. "All the inductees were told the fans want to hear our stories, to take our time and enjoy the moment. But I was something. I don't even know here. I will post the remainder of my speech for you to read. And he was deeply moved by the outpouring of support you showed after my Hall of Fame speech was cut short."
Wow.
Poor T.
Yeah. So, this match was also excellent. Bryan was selling his shoulder after Triple H had attacked him earlier in the show after their match. And the did not do a lot early on. Then they did a spot where they hit a powerbomb RKO combo through a table. Could not see this clearly from my seat up in the sky, but apparently Orton landed on a monitor and sliced his back open.
Nearly killed himself, yes.
They brought out the stretcher for Bryan, the back brace, the neck injury, the whole thing. As noted, Bridget is not a wrestling fan. She was there because I was. And she was actually very disappointed when we got to our seats. I bought our seats from our good friend Peppermint Fatty on the board. And I was under the impression that he had bought a larger group of them, and so we'd be sitting together. And then, of course, we got to our seats, and there was nobody there we knew. And then, of course, we got moved anyway, so it didn't matter. But So she was bummed that she would have to watch the show and not have the other girls there to talk to. But she's watching the show, and this injury happens, and they bring out the cart, and suddenly she's very concerned. Bridget is the lifeguard of the pool, lifeguard trained. She's very concerned about safety, and she is horrified that we may have seen a tragedy befall us before our eyes. And they began to wheel him out, and she had been leaning forward, like clutching her hands under her chin, paying rapt attention. Then she just turns to me and says, "They're wheeling him out way too slow." And I said, "Yes, dear." So she smartened up. And, of course, Bryan fought his way off the stretcher and went back into battle. And, he tapped out Big Dave. People cheered. It was not by the slimmest of margins. It was a smaller reaction than his win over Hunter earlier. But it was still a great moment.
I actually thought it was the biggest pop of the whole night.
Did you?
Yeah. They lost their shit.
Well, they did. But
for lack of a better term.
They lost more shit earlier.
I don't know. Arguable.
And part of it was, for some of these people, they've been in this building for 6 hours, done a lot of cheering, seen a lot of history. They were tired, but regardless, it was a very, very big reaction. And they had the pyro and the confetti and his music playing and 70,000 freaks screaming yes, yes, yes over and over again. He said hi to some people I don't know, brought a little girl into the ring, gave her a hug. A great time was had by all.
His sister.
Okay, there you go. And he finally left.
I don't know who the little girl was.
Right. I would guess his niece.
Sure.
I don't know. I was surprised Bree didn't come out, but it's not my show. So left with both belts, and I can tell you, I've been at a lot of wrestling shows, a lot of theater, a lot of sporting events, and there's always a certain percentage of the crowd will leave either before the finish or immediately at the finish to beat traffic. No one left. Everyone was still in the Superdome, except for those people who left after the Taker match. Everyone who was still there stayed to chant yes as long as they could and cheer for Daniel Bryan as long as they possibly could. And finally, Bryan went backstage, and the confetti stopped, and the music stopped, and the lights came up, and Lillian told us the show was over. Please go home. A lot of people just stood there for a while, just taking it all in, and then finally realized there was nothing else going on, and they had to go.
Awesome show.
It was an amazing show.
It was awesome. Show was awesome. All right. Well, I guess we got to talk about Raw.
Did you enjoy this show?
Raw?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, good. Thought it was just me. So, the whole roster was out on stage for the Warrior tribute. Had a big graphic on the screen. Vince McMahon front and center. They had a great tribute with lots of highlights and people like Steph and Hogan talking about how Warrior stood the test of time. He re-aired his last promo on Raw, which turned out to be his own eulogy. And then, saddest of all, they showed his little girls the Hall of Fame. That was very hard to watch. They did a 10-bell salute and said they would celebrate his life tonight, and they played his music. And you talked about me rocking out to RVD's theme. Titus O'Neil was rocking out to Ultimate Warrior's theme. And Hunter got everyone on the stage to lead chants of Warrior's name. It's all very sad.
I should mention a few things. First off, the WrestleMania 6 theme that you thought was Linda McMahon's theme.
Yeah, yes.
Not Linda McMahon's theme. You're thinking of the wrong one.
A different WrestleMania theme.
Yes, that was an excellent, excellent theme.
Yes, there's a guitar theme.
And not to make light of this 10-bell salute at all, but I'm sitting there watching this, and they announced that they're going to do a 10-bell salute for the Ultimate Warrior. And I'm sitting on the chair, and it's me. I think Whitty was in the room, and sitting a few feet from me was Tiggy. And they start ringing the bell, and Tiggy did not like this 10-bell salute. Usually, like there's a lot of stuff that they play on television that your cats don't pay any attention to at all. Like 99.9% of the stuff on television. Mm-hmm. Every now and then, like on the big screen, you'll see birds flying by, and the cats will take note and go crazy. But for the most part, it doesn't matter what sounds. It doesn't matter what visually is on the television. The cats completely ignore it. But there's two things that Tiggy does not like one bit. One of them was the 10-bell salute for the Ultimate Warrior, every time that goddamn bell rang, she was just, ears perked up, looking around, panicked, start to slink away every time it dinged. I don't know if it's the frequency or what it was, but she really did not like this 10-bell salute. The only thing she hates more is if you ever start playing the guitar, she's gone. Hates the guitar.
So your cat hates music.
It hates the certain notes, I guess. Like, she doesn't run away for anyone's ring entrance. Actually, you know what? She'd probably run away for The Last Real Man. But I haven't... what's his name?
Silas Young?
No, the other guy that has the siren.
Oh, Tommaso Ciampa.
Tommaso Ciampa. She'd probably run away for that. But actually, she didn't, so I don't even know. But every time that bell rang, she got more and more terrified and slinked away. The only other thing, interestingly, that she hears on television that she does not like, and make of this what you will, is whenever we're watching Finding Bigfoot, every now and then they will play a Bigfoot call, and she does not like those Bigfoot calls. I don't know what the hell it means. I don't know if it means it's a real animal or what it is about it, but man, she hears those Bigfoot calls and she's out of here. So whatever that is, I don't know, but she did not like that 10-bell salute. So don't ring the bell 10 times if I pass away.
Duly noted. Alberto Del Rio wrestled Rob Van Dam in the opener. It was the first match in the first round of an 8-man tournament to get a title shot at Big E. And this entire concept is hysterical. 6 of these 8 men are former World or WWE champions. And now they're all fighting each other. And only one of them can get a shot at Big E, who loses all the time.
I was just thinking...
It's like a race to the bottom.
It's kind of like... I believe all these 8 men have even beaten Big E.
Probably.
Just pick one out of a hat and he gets a championship. You know, Dave and I had a big argument last night about Daniel Bryan versus Kane. And I was like, he can't possibly be facing Kane at the pay-per-view. And Dave's like, well, who's he going to face? And I didn't think about it at the time, but somebody on the board mentioned, how about you do a fucking tournament and the winner gets Daniel Bryan? Instead of a tournament where the winner gets Big E Langston.
Yeah.
But no, that's not what they're doing.
They're going to do Kane.
I still cannot. They're doing Daniel Bryan and Kane on Monday, and my brain cannot comprehend the idea that they're going to do the same match on pay-per-view. I realize there'll probably be a run-in. I'm hoping they do the match, shit goes down, Evolution and Batista run in, and they turn that into an 8-man.
Or something.
I mean, come on. Daniel Bryan and Kane, really?
There's better opponents for Bryan to defend against. So, we had a match. It was mostly a long commercial break. Pretty sloppy most of the way through. Rob tried to kick off the middle rope, and he fell jumping up, and then he fell again when he tried the kick. And the last minute was a bunch of big moves, and everyone liked it. And Rob won with a frog splash. And the one thing about this tournament, they had updated brackets before and after every single match.
That was good.
Everyone knows what's going on in this tournament all the time. That is a thumbs up.
You know what did annoy me, though? It's the smallest of small nitpicks. They had all the brackets, and Rob Van Dam and Del Rio was the second one down on the bracket. But
not the second match?
They started it as the first match. And I was like, is it that big a deal that, you know what I mean? Like, why couldn't you put Rob Van Dam's match on top? Because those two matches, it doesn't matter which one goes first, which one goes second. The winners are still going to face each other. So did you have to make the bracket with Rob Van Dam's match second, but you made him wrestle first? I don't know why that infuriated me. I'm probably the only one literally in the entire world.
You may be overreacting.
Oh, I know I am. I admitted that before I even went on my rant.
They announced that Daniel Bryan was on his honeymoon and would not be there, and recapped his brawl with Evolution last week. Showed a highlight of Warrior winning the Intercontinental title from Honky Tonk Man at SummerSlam 88. A much bigger win than whoever Big E beat for his belt. I actually have no idea who Big E beat for his belt. But Warrior's win was bigger. Had a wacky skit/toy commercial.
Who did Big E beat?
Who cares? But there was a young boy and his mother were shopping for toys when a shirtless Sheamus and Big E appeared, and it was just a goofy toy commercial, except that it seemed to go on forever.
Was it not goofy that Sheamus is practically nude. In
Sheamus is walking around bare-chested.
Toy store.
Yes.
Usually when wrestlers walk around in their gear in real life, it's really funny. And I'm not really offended by this, but it did just look, it was just totally weird.
They couldn't have put a T-shirt on him.
Child in the toy store, and all of a sudden maybe it's because he's so pale.
Maybe.
There's something about it where it's just unacceptable. This half-naked, not even half.
60%, 70%?
80% naked man. White skin, red hair, just comes in and he's just like, hey! Fella? Little fella?
Evolution had a meeting backstage. Hunter said Bryan was not there, so they could not deal with him, but they could deal with the Shield. But Orton and Dave blew him off and said the only thing they cared about was being world champion.
This guy says with I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that's just, they basically told him to fuck off.
With Evolution versus the Shield, there are no heels left to fight Bryan at the pay-per-view. No heels? There are no heels on Raw. I was unaware of that fact. I was unaware. How about the fucking guy that won the Andre the Giant Battle Royal? Antonio Cesaro.
He's a heel.
He's a fucking heel. And it would be a more interesting and better match than Kane.
I can confirm it would be better.
That's just one guy.
Yes. All these guys in the tournament.
There are plenty of heels in this tournament. There's heels all over this tournament.
By the way, for those of you who really do care about this kind of thing, Big E beat Curtis Axel.
No wonder we forgot.
Yeah. I'm actually happy I forgot. I'm glad that's not rattling around in my head. Rhodes Brothers versus Axelback. A by-the-numbers match. Cody came off the ropes with a disaster kick, and Ryback caught him with a lariat in midair for the win. Remember when the Rhodes Brothers were having great matches every week and were a key part of the show? That seems like forever ago now.
Thank God they didn't break up at WrestleMania.
Yeah. Got to be her job in Axelback instead. Paige versus Alicia Fox. Paige looked better here than she did last week. They were on different pages early, but it worked out. And then she won with the Scorpion Crosslock, which got a huge pop.
Because it looks awesome.
Because it looks awesome. It's a good reason, yes.
I like how they shoot it from down below so it looks even more dramatic.
Sure. Who was it that first finished, they'd actually put a camera in the ring? I forget. It doesn't matter. Usos versus Orton and Batista. Wrestled around a while. Nobody really cared. Shield showed up, attacked Orton. The place went nuts. Then they surrounded Dave in the ring. And he fought him off for a while, but then Reigns hit a Superman punch and he ran away, and Orton and Dave ran for cover. They showed Warrior beating Hulk Hogan for the World Championship at WrestleMania 6 in Toronto. Orton and Dave were backstage recovering. Hunter just walked up, looked them both in the eye, shrugged, and said, "Told you."
What a dick.
It was great. Hunter is so great at being a prick. Heyman came out for a promo.
People laugh, too, at it.
Yeah, because he's such a great prick. And, of course, these other guys are also pricks. You're supposed to laugh when bad things happen to them. Paul Heyman came out for a promo, repeated several times that Brock Lesnar had broken the streak, had still photos of Brock beating Taker up, bragged about it for a while, and then brought out Cesaro. Cesaro versus Mark Henry in an Intercontinental title tournament match, which stopped both men from wrestling Bryan at the pay-per-view, so they had to go get Kane. Cesaro won in about a minute with the diving uppercut and the neutralizer.
You know what's funny
Hell
is
of a tournament so far.
His gimmick is the King of Swing, and I don't believe he has done a single swing since WrestleMania. Am I wrong about that?
Well, no. He has wrestled Big Show and Mark Henry. Now, granted, he's swung Khali.
Well, I'm pretty sure he can swing them if you can give him a neutralizer.
I wouldn't know. I can't do either one. So the Helmsleys told Brad Maddox to find the Shield and tell them they had a match in the main event. Maddox said, "Do you want me to tell them who their opponents are?" And the Helmsleys said, "No."
I love Brad's gimmick. I don't know if this is an ongoing thing or if I've just now noticed it or I'm just creating something in my mind. But Brad is that idiot who he works for you, you tell him what to do, and they just got to ask you some extra questions.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
They were very simple instructions. Go find the fucking Shield. Tell them they are in the main event, all right? Should I tell them who their opponents are? No! Go find the fucking Shield and tell them who their opponents are. That's it. Watch, you'll do it every week now. Maybe this has been ongoing for a while, and I'm just now been alerted to it in my own mind.
Lana and Alexander Rusev came out. It was Rusev versus Xavier Woods. Lana said that monuments would be erected in Rusev's name. God, I hope this is true.
Like what kind of monument?
An arch.
Pyramid?
Pyramid, sure. Big statue of Alexander Rusev.
I want to see Nick Cage's pyramid in the fucking cemetery.
That's right. So Rusev squashed Woods and beat him with a camel clutch. Still waiting for a good match in this episode of Raw. And
Lana is they've done her up. She's been done up for a few weeks. But I don't know what they do. They're good. I'm not saying that she's not attractive, but when they moved her from NXT to Raw, her attractiveness increased tenfold. So I don't know what they do with the makeups or the outfit or whatever, but yeah. Good switch.
So, yeah, and he beat up Truth for good measure, too, when all was said and done. They showed Warrior beating Rick Rude in a cage match at SummerSlam. I don't think anyone got more good matches out of the Ultimate Warrior than Rick Rude did.
Savage.
They had one really good match. I guess two. They had one at SummerSlam, didn't they?
SummerSlam was the only one people remember.
They did one at Mania.
Oh, the Mania one. Yeah.
Rude had two or three. So, yeah. Anyway, Rick Rude and Randy Savage are good, everyone. Had a brief clip of Daniel Bryan's special from the network. Jack Swagger and Sheamus in an Intercontinental title tournament match that prevented them from wrestling Daniel Bryan at the pay-per-view. This match went forever. And then Sheamus won with a bro kick. He was selling his leg afterwards, collapsed on his way up the ramp.
Sheamus is probably turning heel, and he probably will do some matches with Daniel Bryan for the title, just so everyone knows. That was the idea as of a couple of weeks ago. Could have done it at this pay-per-view, but they didn't. That was originally going to be the Mania match, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Bryan and Sheamus.
Again.
Yeah.
More Adam Rose hype videos, same ones they've been showing already.
I did really like the finish of Swagger and Sheamus. Very good finish.
It was a bro kick. What happened? I forget what happened to set it up.
It's just a good finish.
Oh, all right. They plugged Warrior Week on the network. Lots of WrestleMania 6 and...
Speaking of, guess who debuted on Warrior Week out of nowhere in the middle of a Warrior Greatest Matches special?
I understand that the Stinger
made his
WWE debut in an not unannounced, but yeah, a network show.
I think technically Sting would have made his debut when he wrestled Ric Flair on the final simulcast, Raw and Nitro.
True.
But yes, this was, people are considering this Sting's debut. I guess he did it via cell phone. I haven't seen it yet. But, yeah, Sting, interesting. I guess he signed.
Apparently.
How come Russo never changed his gimmick to interesting? And every week he would do something poetic or something. I don't know.
I'm just going to move on.
One week he'd jump out of an airplane. The next week he'd paint something.
He'd paint something?
Yeah, because he's interesting.
Painting is interesting?
Well, sure.
Not saying it's not.
Thank God he's out of TNA now.
Yeah, you can do cell phone videos on network shows.
Yeah. I'm sure he'll do more than that.
Damian Sandow tried to get a promo when Big Show interrupted. And Show came out to his music and lumbered down to the ring, and Sandow never stopped. Just kept talking. Ordered Show to wait in the corner until he was done. Went off about how he was not getting the respect he had earned and deserved. And then finally Show punched him out and left, and that was the entire segment.
This guy says you can't job Cesaro to Daniel Bryan in his first pay-per-view as a Heyman guy. Actually, you know what? You can. If he goes out there and he main events a pay-per-view with Daniel Bryan and they have an awesome match, which I guarantee they do, and they go back and forth, and Bryan barely gets to win over the guy at the end, trust me, he'll be fine. In fact, he'll probably be over a hell of a lot bigger the next night.
Oh, absolutely. Bray Wyatt got a promo, repeated his claims that John Cena was a liar. He said he had Cena up against the ropes, and Cena just needed a little push. And then Cena came out, and he had one fantastic line when he said nobody wanted to see him get another push. And then things went all to hell.
All downhill.
Oh, my God.
All downhill.
A long segment of really, really bad John Cena comedy. And it may not have been his fault, but he did not help.
You know what, Vinny? It is his fault because he's John Cena.
He could say no.
And he can say no to anything he wants.
Yeah.
He can say, you know what? Wrong guy to do horrible comedy with.
So it was all the Wyatt family's heads on pictures of women and babies and stuff. And Bray told Cena to get serious, and so Cena challenged him to a cage match at Extreme Rules so he can win again, I guess. There's no logical reason for Cena to want a cage match.
Because of the booking they were gonna do and didn't. That's a great reason.
So Bray accepted, and they kept talking for too long. This was bad.
Sammy here makes a very astute point. Raw and Nitro was not simulcast until the segment with Vince and Shane. The Sting match was on Turner only. So there you go.
We had Fandango and Layla versus Santino and Emma. Fandango cut an inset promo saying his breakup with Summer was not personal. He did not blame her for falling in love with him. That was great. Match went a minute. Layla pinned Emma after yanking her on the ropes. This show sucked.
Same finish as earlier on as well.
Stephanie gave Kane a browbeating backstage. He sheepishly tried to apologize. She tore into him, asked what had happened to him, what happened to the monster, what happened to the devil's favorite demon, what happened to Kane? And he fired up. He jumped up. And
What happened to Kane? You turned him into a corporate guy.
Yes.
That was your idea,
Well, that's
Steph.
True. That is true. And he was pissed off, and he was fuming and breathing loud, and he slowly grabbed his mask from the display case where it's always been and basically said that he would send Bryan to the depths of hell. So yes, Kane is coming back. Unfortunately, it's this
As opposed to the heights of hell.
I didn't say it.
Just always thought that was kind of funny. Going to the depths of hell. The heights of hell are downright balmy. It's nice up there. You're just barely in hell.
What's that?
I hit punch my mic.
Yeah. They replayed Warrior's speech from Raw last week. Very sad.
He didn't look good.
What's that?
It was confirmed to me upon watching this. He did not look good.
No. Had a new skit for Adam Rose's party bus. This party bus includes hungry hippos and men in bunny costumes. This is the first time I thought, maybe this won't get over.
It'll be a good entrance for a few weeks, and then if it's in the right place, it'll be over. If it's in the wrong place, it's going to die a death. As we learned from SmackDown this week.
Dolph Ziggler versus Wade Barrett in the final tournament match. We at last got a good match in the show. It took until this far, 2.5 hours in. Fans were chanting, "This is awesome," for the near falls at the end. Dolph kicked out of all of Wade's big moves, kicked out of the wasteland, kicked out of the Bubba Slam that he uses. And then Wade tried a bullhammer, and Dolph avoided it the first time, but then a few seconds passed, and Wade hit it again for real. He got the win. This was a good match. So next week, we get Wade and Sheamus, who used to have a ton of fun matches all the time, and Cesaro versus Rob Van Dam, which is intriguing. And Wade cut a promo vowing to win the title. He might.
You know that Raw script got leaked, and looks like Cesaro may be the winner of this tournament here. Which I guess would mean if he wins the tournament, he will also be the linear WWE champion. And by the way, for those of you asking about why AJ and CM Punk were both listed on the injured reserve, that list does not necessarily mean injured. It is a place that you put people, and by putting them in the injured reserve list, people ask fewer questions, was how it was described to me. Mm. So I believe that AJ asked for time off. She's not hurt. And obviously CM Punk is not hurt. But they're both, Punk, like I said, I don't expect to see him back. And AJ will probably be back, but she's also engaged to CM Punk. And you never know. Far more likely she will be back. But right now she's on hiatus.
Had a Kane hype video, pretty much outright saying he is going to come back as a masked monster. Main event was Shield versus mystery opponents.
Remember when masks used to conceal your identity?
Yes. Now he just puts it on and takes it off every once in a while. It makes him mad when he puts it on.
It's like Manic. Why are you wearing a mask, dude?
Yeah, Manic sucked. Is he still around?
Yeah, they did a TNA one night only pay-per-view, and they brought in a whole bunch of people from outside the company to beat all of the people in the company under contract.
Excellent.
Oh yeah. This place is on fire, this TNA.
What's sad is I don't for a second doubt that what you're saying is true.
To be fair, the guy who won low-key, I believe he is going to be signed to a deal. So at the end of the day, it's not completely preposterous. But they had plenty of outsiders beating their guys.
Great.
Who cares? Doesn't matter.
So, it ended up being Shield versus 11 men. For those of you who are writing this down, it's Del Rio and Swagger and Fandango, 3-man band, Titus O'Neil, Axelback, Rusev, and Wade Barrett. There were at least tags, so the Shield were able to hold their own for a while. And then Reigns hit Ryback with a spear on the floor. Giant brawl broke out. Ref just called for the DQ. Shield hit dives, and they regrouped in the ring, but then their match was over, so the heels just all got all 11 men in the ring at once, swarmed them, beat them up. And then with a battle safely won, Evolution came out to their music. And I thought I was the first one to think of this, although being on the border dam, one of thousands to think of this. But the whole point of Evolution used to be veterans finding young guys to groom. First thing I thought was, imagine if they end up taking Roman Reigns into this group. That'd be awesome.
They could, but I don't know. I don't expect that, but...
Or they may just fight for one pay-per-view and then break up again.
I expect Roman Reigns and Hunter to have a match at SummerSlam and Reigns beats him, but we'll see. Mm-hmm. Which means that Evolution needs to win some matches, get some heat.
True. So anyway, they came out, and with the battle won, the other 11 heels all disappeared. And then so Evolution beat up the Shield for a long time, and they all hit RKOs and powerbombs and pedigrees, and that was the end of the show. It wasn't very good.
I like the main event thing just fine.
It was a good angle.
The last hour or so, well...
That's probably true, actually. The last half hour of the show was the best half hour on the show.
Last half hour was good, but other than that, I don't know. Not a lot to write home about. Well, let's see what's on the Twitter machine before we wrap it up here. What do we got?
All right, Monday Night Raw. Daniel Bryan made his big return. I can confirm that here, at least in this instance, absence did make the fans' hearts grow fonder. Giant ovation for him. Brie Bella was already in the ring. They
what's that face for, Craig?
Daniel Bryan coming out, and he could tell he had been sobbing and crying. My heart broke for this guy.
Well, It was his request.
I couldn't hardly stand to watch it.
It was very sad.
So sad.
It sucked. Yes, he. I'm assuming everyone listening to this has heard, but yes, Bryan's father passed away. He got news of it that day, and still insisted on doing this opening segment. So he came out, giant ovation. Eyes were completely bloodshot, and you saw him give Mouth a little thank you. And then he led them all in cheers. Then before he could even speak, Stephanie came out. There was no mention from anyone about Bryan's family tragedy. Stephanie came out, and I've mentioned this a lot, actually, but this may be the most improved performer I've ever seen. Because I used to hate this woman. And when she came on, I didn't just hate the show, I hated the world. And I hated my life.
Wow.
Now, since the calendar turned... She's been so great this year, and she was so great here.
She's been very, very good, but is she really that different than she's been in the past?
Yes.
In what way?
She's better.
Thank you.
Right. Now that that's settled. No.
Yes, settled.
She's learned to speak. Her voice isn't nearly as nasal.
Oh.
She's not as screechy now.
She's not as screechy now.
She can be very screechy.
Oh, yeah.
There's more. Well, she's screechy when the time calls for it. Like in the Occupy Raw segment, when she went screechy for the first time in a month, and it was awesome. Then she's not screechy in every segment. She's not nasal in every segment. She's way more emotive than she used to be. She's way more expressive. I really enjoy Stephanie these days. So she congratulated them on their organic, crunchy, rustic wedding. Made fun of that for a while. Crunchy.
Like granola.
Yeah,
Woody did
crunchy.
laugh when she called it crunchy.
Yes, it was funny. She said she had gotten them a wedding gift. It was a title match against Kane at Extreme Rules.
That gift sucks.
That is a pretty horrible wedding gift. Do not get me this, everyone. Do not get me a match with Kane. So, she warned them that Kane was loose and basically told them they should run. And then Kane's music hit, and Bryan tried to get Brie to safety by taking her on the other side of the ring, but it was a trap. Kane came through the crowd and attacked them. Stephanie was great again. She's insincerely trying to order Kane to stop and also trying to tell Bryan and Brie to get to safety. Run, Brie, run! And I laughed and laughed and laughed. So Kane laid complete waste to Bryan. He had a tombstone on the floor. He had a tombstone on the stairs, which looked very, very bad for Kane's knees. They came out. They put a neck brace on Bryan, strapped him to a board. Kane returned. Hit a tombstone on the announce desk. Bryan is playing with his Apple TV and setting off the volume on my Mac. He hit a tombstone on the announce desk. The announce desk did not break. This also looked very bad for Kane's knees. And Stephanie called Kane a bastard.
Yes, she did.
And Kane finally left. And that obviously they don't know when Bryan's going to return. He's got stuff to go take care of.
I know when he's going to return. He's back on Raw.
Next week?
Yeah.
You lie.
No, I swear to God, they gave him 3 tombstones, including one on the floor.
The floor, the stairs, and the table.
Yeah. And he just had a minor stinger, they said. He will be back on Raw.
This was a pretty epic beating. I think it deserves more than
It actually
7 days.
infuriated me.
I watched this and thought he's going to be gone for 6 months.
I figured he wouldn't be back till the pay-per-view.
Nope, he's back on Raw.
Wow.
Oh, Jesus.
I mean, they could change their mind because remember when Hunter gave Bryan the beating and they announced on SmackDown that he would be on Raw, and then on Raw they decided, wait, he shouldn't be on Raw, so they took him off Raw. You may recall this. So it's possible that they will not put him on the show, but right now he is scheduled to be on Raw.
So, after the break, Bryan was still being wheeled out, and Brie was next to him distraught, and Stephanie was in the ring showing mock concern, but this mock concern had not stopped her from grabbing both of Bryan's title belts. And she asked for a round of applause for Bryan and held up the belts, and the fans were calling her a very, very mean name. So this turned out fun. Bad news, Barrett versus Sheamus in an IC title, or a number 1 contender tournament match. Wade has new pyro and is also growing a longer beard, so he's definitely getting a push.
And definitely a heel.
Yeah, definitely a heel. He's, not here. These fans loved him. He had bad news for Sheamus. Sheamus is going to lose. So, these guys used to fight all the time, and it was my favorite feud, and this is the first match in a few years, and it's still awesome. They bring out the best of each other. Just a very intense brawl. Wailing on each other, hitting all kinds of big moves. Great chemistry. Sheamus hit white noise, and Wade kicked out, and Sheamus has had a look of confusion on his face. Or, as Jerry Lawler called it, befuddled. He looks befuddled.
He made sure to point out befuddled.
Yes.
He was befuddled.
So Wade ended up on the floor, and Sheamus tries something sort of like a tope, but as he was coming through the ropes, Sheamus caught him with a bullhammer and rolled inside and pinned him for the win. Very good match. I don't get this gimmick at all, but apparently I'm the minority, because there's no doubt that he gets a bigger reaction now than he would have.
What gimmick? That he's bad news Barrett?
Yeah.
I like the gimmick.
Since when?
Well, since he stopped being in a goddamn scissor lift and just had matches.
Okay. The matches are exactly what he was doing before the gimmick.
That's true.
Wade Barrett didn't wrestle for about 6 months.
I know.
He sat in a scissor lift, and I didn't understand why he was in a scissor lift, and it was all leading to nothing, so I didn't like it. But Wade Barrett coming out and announcing that he's got some bad news, which always gets a pop, announcing his bad news in his evil Wade Barrett voice, and then kicking someone's ass, winner.
That's true. Yeah, I don't know why, but he is definitely a bigger star now than before this whole thing started.
Was there a reason he was out not wrestling for 6 months?
I don't think so.
Too busy writing promos about what bad news was.
I see. This was, Ed has taken to tweeting live during Raw, and he wrote in hashtag mean guy match and attributed it to Vinny. This later followed when they had the Wyatts on. He wrote hashtag fall the buzzards. I figured one of them had an equilibrium problem.
At least he spelled buzzards right. Or did he not?
I can't remember. Probably
Scissor
not.
Lift is apparently back on SmackDown, unfortunately.
It was here tonight on Raw. Or no, it was the
Main event.
yeah.
Main event.
My bad.
Why does he have a scissor lift?
I don't know.
Because they had it out when the lights were being put up. We've been over this.
They showed Hugh Jackman interfering in a Dolph Ziggler match in 2011.
Huge Ackman?
Hugh Jackman.
I see.
Any relation to Mr. Erection?
So somehow via Twitter, even though Hugh had cost Dolph a match 3 years ago, now he's going to be in Dolph's corner next week for a match against Damian Sandow.
Great.
That is great. Hugh was awesome last time he was on Raw. Fans could vote for Cena's opponent tonight. The options were Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, or Luke Harper and Eric Rowan and Bray Wyatt. And the story here, Cole said it here, and apparently Joss repeated it on the post-show show. But the story was the fans who liked Cena would vote for the 3-on-1 match because that was the only way he could get his hands on Bray.
Well, aside from the pay-per-view steel cage match.
And aside from WrestleMania where he beat Bray.
Clean, yeah.
This
feud sucks.
Horrible.
It's stupid and it sucks.
Wyatt appeared on the stage for a promo, and Bray talked about how he was stealing Cena's fans, and the fans proved this was true by swinging and swaying for him. Los Matadores and El Torito versus Drew McIntyre and Jinder Mahal and Hornswoggle in what JBL referred to as a 5-man tag. 2.5 against 2.5.
Ah.
I still like 3.5 MB better.
So, this was, I didn't see the main event match where this all started, but this looked like what the highlights in that looked like. All the big dudes in the heel team got hit in the nuts. And the Matadors held Drew so Torito could hit a dive, and Torito pinned him. Goofy fun.
Sure.
What did Drew do wrong?
Whatever it was like 3 years
Married
ago.
Tiffany.
Evolution arrived in a giant limo backstage. I'm very sad that Batista is no longer wearing his douchebag wardrobe.
Oh, it was still
douchey.
In considering what they were wearing, he was awesome. Who the fuck wears a vest? You know what I mean?
Dave.
Like when you wear a vest underneath, like maybe if you're going to a wedding and you've got the vest, but I mean in real life, who would you wears just the vest? That's great.
I would actually, if I'm wearing a tie.
I would do it, but I can't get away with it. No, you don't. You don't go around just wearing a vest. Really? Where's your vest right now? So I thought. Batista walks around just in that vest and those sunglasses.
If I'm wearing a tie, I would rather wear a vest with it, because among the reasons I hate ties, and there are many of them, but at least the vest will keep it in place.
It'll keep what in place?
The tie.
I see.
So Evolution came out for a promo. Don't know what was up with Hunter, but he was losing his voice. Bryan apparently is tired of the network because he's playing.
No, I want to find main event because they do the Hornswoggle Torito rematch.
I see.
We haven't done this enough. SmackDown, Raw. Now it's got to be on a main event too.
Ah.
These writers have writer's block.
We shall get to that. I have more to say on that subject.
Goodness.
So yes, Hunter was losing a voice, but he still spoke. Essentially, he said they were the Shield's daddy, and he had spanked the Shield and humiliated them in front of the whole world. It showed a old school Evolution hype video, and even forgetting that Hunter was losing his voice here, his voice has changed so much in the past decade.
Hunters?
Yes.
I didn't notice.
Yes. Go back and watch this again.
Deeper or
Gravelier.
Well, he was sick here.
Well, I realized that. I mentioned that because, again, you don't listen to what I say. I don't know why I bothered doing the show.
I listened to what you said, Vinny, but like how can you make that determination on a day where he's sick, though?
Because I watch Hunter talk every week. And this week he sounded different, yes. But you take any other Hunter promo from 2014, and his voice is much more gravelly than it was in this here Evolution video from 2004.
Why must you rile him up?
I don't understand why he got so riled up about that.
Because I have to repeat myself.
He's under a lot of stress. He's getting married soon. My God.
They all also looked 10 years younger.
Yes, they did. You're right. True. So, they ran their mouths for a while. Shield interrupted, had the music going, came through the crowd, the usual entrance, and they came out and hopped the rail, but Evolution backed down and walked away. So then the Shield decided to talk for a while, and this was not bad, but it went too long for three guys who apparently just wanted to fight. And finally, they all went up the ramp to go get him. But out came 12 other dudes to back up Evolution. And the Shield were not smart enough to go into this fight. They just called Evolution cowards, and the segment kind of petered out. But all I can say is that Steve Austin would have gone up the ramp to fight 12 men.
Seth Rollins cuts a passionate promo.
Seth Rollins did great.
All three of them.
There's that geek from NXT, Tom Phillips. Now I know what he looks like.
He's on Main Event.
Yeah. He's a commentator.
I see.
Adam Rose hype video. His catchphrase apparently is going to be, "It's party time," and then the fans will say, "all the time."
Great.
That's what I got. What's what I got out of this. They listed the most watched shows on the network. I was very depressed to see Legends House was number 1.
Wasn't that bad. It's just boring.
It was very, very boring.
It's been
all the stuff on the network, I realize it's not like everyone's just sitting and watch a random 1990 pay-per-view or something.
Legends House has been hyped up for 2 years.
Yeah, it looked like crap for 2 years.
Still's been hyped up for 2 years.
There were people saying, "I can't wait to see this crap." The show was much, 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 much better than I expected. But come on. Where was I? Oh, their tagline for the network, by the way, and I'm not making this up. This is what they said. "The WWE Network. It's just like Netflix, but better." That's what they said.
Yeah.
Usos versus the Rhodes Brothers. Axelback was on commentary. Curtis Axel, of course, had nothing to say. Ryback was actually pretty funny and had some... apparently, Ryback's dad was once a bartender who served drinks to Kurt Hennig. Pretty amazing. He also noted that he was 13 the first time he'd seen Goldust wrestle. Here Goldust was 20 years later, still kicking ass. Pretty good for an old guy, he noted. And actually, I will note, Goldust was in fact good for an old guy. He was moving so fast the Usos had trouble keeping up.
I think he's only about 10 years older than Ryback.
Probably, yeah. So, there was some kind of confusion about who was the legal man. Honestly, I was not sure what was going on. The announcers weren't calling anything. So, the Usos eventually pinned Cody with a super kick. Then Goldust shoved Cody, and they left separately, and Axelback attacked the Usos from behind.
Look what's on Main Event, by the way.
Yeah.
It's Alberto Del Rio and Big E.
Yeah.
Again.
Third
Maybe
time.
Del Rio will fail to break the hold again.
You know, you guys are ranting.
No, they're going to probably do a finish here on this fucking show that nobody watches.
You guys are ranting about the SmackDown finish of
Yes.
this exact same match.
We
really.
were.
And I was listening to JR today on his podcast, not that he called me or anything. And why don't they use the Broadway anymore?
An hour?
No. Why don't they set time limits like 15 minutes, 10-minute time limit, and go Broadway when you don't have anything to do?
Because as soon as you announce a time in a random match...
Okay, I'll give you that. But what if they...
In every
for
single
a
match,
while-
they started listing the time?
Yeah.
Because you'd realize that no match goes more than 4 minutes on your average television show?
All right. I thought he had a great point, though. It's just another
I got
finish.
a better idea. How about if the guy's the Intercontinental Champion, and the other guy sucked so bad that he got knocked out of the tournament the prior Monday,
All right.
the Intercontinental Champion fucking beats him.
This might have
Especially if
been
he's
the
going
wrong
to lay the
time.
guy out afterwards.
This might have been the wrong time to bring this up, but it is in fact, another valid finish that they could do.
Yeah, a finish.
Yes.
A pinfall. Sweating right now.
Fair enough.
Layla versus Emma. This is the writer's block segment. These 4 people live in their own little universe.
Yep.
And they are not allowed to coexist with anyone else. So we just random combinations of Santino, Emma, Fandango, and Layla forever ever, and ever until we all die.
Well, at least we got new merch.
Emma pulled
A
out
very phallic.
a
Pink snake.
My goodness, I hadn't thought about that until right now.
Yeah.
Where have you been?
Well, I just
That's
watched
the first thing
show.
I thought.
Just pink cobra puppet.
No.
Can you charm
It's a
it?
giant Usyk.
Can you charm it?
Giant what now?
It's a whale penis.
Oh,
That's a dork.
It's an Usyk.
It's a dork.
Have you been to the old Curiosity Shop?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it
The-
says Wales Usyk.
Yes, it is much, much larger than this pink cobra puppet.
Yeah, but Vinny, it's
It's like Vinny with a turtleneck. What?
when the whale's live, its Usyk is pink.
Right.
Okay.
It looks exactly like Emma's puppet.
Except bigger.
Yeah.
Well, significant.
You call this a giant Usyk. In fact, this would be a mini Usyk.
Well, you may be right.
All right.
Well, in relation to the size of a human,
All of this is so much more entertaining than the actual match.
Yeah.
This died a death, I wrote.
There was a big pop when Emma went for the Cobra in my house. My wife and my son giggled.
I couldn't get over
Yeah.
how difficult applying the Cobra must be
Oh, yeah.
because she was unable to do it properly.
That's right.
I thought you just put your hand up and went bonk.
Right.
Apparently not.
Big E just hit the big ending. And the refs are going 1, 2, and 3. Yes, they did the finish on main event.
This person here is asking why I'm thinking about whale Usyks.
He's got a point.
I went up and I was in a parade on Saturday.
What a crappy parade.
Did you see the pictures?
No.
The parade was awesome.
Oh, I saw your gimmick that you
I
had
was
made.
dressed up
Yeah,
as
A
a
walrus.
walrus, and Whitney had a whale hat on. But anyway, the point of this is
Cuckoo Cuckoo.
there was a guy there. He did a talk. There was like a talk about whales. He'd gone to Baja, and you can get in a boat, and the whales come up to your boat, and they will bring their head out of the water and put it on your boat. These are very friendly whales. So he had a bunch of photos he'd taken in the
They didn't-
70s.
They didn't put their Usyk on the boat.
I'm getting to this, Craig.
Sorry.
So he had a bunch of photos that he'd taken from the 70s when he was out there. He'd first gone down to see all these whales, and so they'd been taken off like 35 millimeter film, totally out of the 70s. He's got like 70s hair and everything like that, and so this is a speech he'd given a million times, so he adds a little bit of comedy to it. So he's showing all these pictures and everything like that, and then all of a sudden there's a slide of just him, and he's like looking out. It's like a 70s cigarette commercial. He's just looking out very seriously like this with a pair of sunglasses on.
It's good radio.
Right? And then the very next slide is a whale that is turned upside down,
No.
and its Usyk is sticking out of the water. And so the next slide after that is the very same picture of him from the cigarette ad, except now his sunglasses are up and his eyes are wide, and he's like, ah! What is that? It's great comedy when you watch all three of these slides in succession. But that is, in fact, why I was thinking of the whale's Usyk.
I see.
Because the very next night on Raw, Emma produced the same Usyk. And I had the same look on my face that he did when he saw that Usyk.
Renee Young interviewed John Cena backstage. He was very sad.
Who won the match, by the way?
Doesn't matter.
Come on, Vinny.
Which one?
Oh, the one we were just watching here to find out there was actually a finish in this goddamn match.
Craig, you're here, right? You're.
Yeah.
I said what happened, right?
Yeah.
Never mind that's on TV.
He's talking about
The Big E
Alberto
match.
Del Rio and Big E. Yeah.
Which I mentioned, Big E hit the big ending and won.
Yes.
Well, I wasn't listening for real that time.
I know.
Usually I do, but go ahead. I was thinking about a whale's.
Renee Young interviewed John Cena backstage. He was sad that he might have to fight 3 dudes.
Don't blame him.
He noted,
Just wanted to prove I was listening.
he noted that he'd get a fair fight in the cage match, so as long as he could just survive tonight, everything would be okay. Cesaro versus Rob Van Dam in an IC title tournament match. Cesaro got new music. It starts with a siren and then changes to generic butt rock.
Horrible.
Sucks.
Yep.
Weren't we just talking about sirens and the cats?
Yes.
Brian, pay attention.
I'm watching.
That's Big E hitting the big ending. He's making a cover, and Charles Robinson hits 1, 2, and 3.
Holy shit, he hit the big ending.
Yeah.
All right.
Heyman was bragging about Brock Lesnar's win over Undertaker. He got cut off mid-sentence for a commercial break. He was still ranting when they came back.
Went nonstop the entire break.
Mm-hmm.
The one sentence over and over and over and over again. And I hate to give everybody a spoiler, but you know the day's coming when Antonio Cesaro, who also had a very, 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 very big moment at WrestleMania, finally gets really pissed off.
So these guys, them being Cesaro and RVD, they were on completely different pages early. No idea what the other guy was doing. After all these years, RVD's bald spot is finally starting to show through his ponytail. The crowd still loves his comeback.
That hasn't changed with the bald spot.
No.
That's good to know.
Nope, that has not changed. Swagger and Coulter came out to distract Cesaro, and then Cesaro ended up getting shoved into the post by the ref's back, and Cesaro got counted out. So let's review. Rob Van Dam, the babyface, advances to the tournament finals with a cheap win. Cesaro looks like a goof for getting distracted. Heyman is a heel manager who manages a guy that fans want to cheer. Swagger is still just Swagger. Everything about this feud is just odd.
I can't argue with that.
My biggest gripe was I was positive that Cesaro was going to win the IC title at some point.
Come on.
What was I thinking?
That's a geek belt.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe he could bring some credibility to the thing. And then lose to Alberto Torito.
Yeah. So it continued. Renee was interviewing RVD backstage. Cesaro and Heyman interrupted. Heyman couldn't believe RVD would take a tainted victory. He had a point.
He had a good point.
Rob advised Cesaro to avoid Heyman as much as possible.
Keep your wallet and your house away from this man, is what he said.
Yes. Your house.
Yeah. The whole building.
Apparently. Aksana versus Paige.
Again.
Just saw it.
Wasn't good the first time. Wasn't good the second time.
It was all right.
I was trying to remember, when was the last time we actually saw Aksana make an entrance? It seems like usually she's just in the ring after commercial, then the other girl comes in.
She had that brief run for like 3 weeks where she was winning matches out of nowhere.
Much like the aforementioned Brodus Clay match, this is the best Aksana match I've seen, and there was 2 of them in a row.
Yeah.
So
Paige is good.
Yeah, she's awesome.
I thought it just went forever.
Well, it did go forever.
If you like Aksana holding a chin lock, have I got a match for you? Paige won with the modified Scorpion crosslock, and the finish did get a pop.
You know what? Someone brought this up. Remember we were trying to figure out what the hell a modified Scorpion crosslock is?
Yes.
Apparently there's video out there of, I forget, Bull Nakano?
Yes.
Yeah. And apparently she does it with a whole chin lock, like a dragon sleeper or something.
I see. Someone's theory was that what they are actually saying is it is a modified Scorpion death lock, but since they can't say death, they have renamed it.
I saw that person's point, and it didn't make any sense to me. I see.
So if Sting if Sting comes in and puts on the death lock and they call it a cross lock, there's your answer.
Huh. By the way, someone here suggests for Extreme Rules, the Usos versus the U6.
Sure. Have to be on pay-per-view.
Yes, it would. Well, certainly would. That is not PG. They had a graphic, one of those did you know graphics. I almost never pay attention to these things, but I couldn't help but noticing the graphic was bragging about SmackDown being the most watched show on basic cable, and I just screamed, why? Alexander Rusev versus Sin Cara. He beat Sin Cara. The most amazing thing to me is the pay-per-view match is Alexander Rusev versus Truth and Xavier Woods in a 2-on-1 match, advantage babyfaces.
Yeah.
well, this is going to be no good. Is that
Just
my
like
phone?
that right there. Whose phone was that?
That wasn't mine, actually.
Vinny?
Probably was mine. Should I check?
No.
All right. And the main event was John Cena versus all three Wyatts. That got 53% of the vote. Harper by himself got 38% of the vote. And Harper and Rowan got 9% of the vote. This match went for days. They beat up Cena forever. Phones are fun. Cell phones are awesome.
Yeah.
They beat him up and beat him up and beat him up. And he made his comeback, and he hit the AA, and he covered Bray Wyatt, and the Giants attacked him for the DQ.
Yes.
John Cena, to set up a steel cage match, is facing three men at one time, and he still can't be beaten.
Yeah. Thank God we've got this cage.
To get him another win.
Actually, I'll bet you anything he loses via interference in the cage match.
You know what?
Don't look at me like that, Craig. I'll bet you good money.
No, I'm actually agreeing with you. That at this point, everything else in this has been so stupid. Yes. That could easily happen. So, they beat up Cena afterwards. Bray hit his move, which, again, begs the question, if he's going to lay him out and hit his move, why not lay him out, hit his move, and then pin him?
That's a good question.
Wrestling sucks. And then, as if the last hour of this show just went forever. He sang a song about the whole world being in his hands. He sang and he sang and he sang. This finally ended. This is a 3-hour show that felt like a 6-hour show.
I agree with everything you just said.
Good job, Craig.
Yeah.
That was Raw, everybody. He's got the whole world in his hands. I like that we got 2 verses. Reminded me of the open of this program. All right, well, Raw.
Monday Night Raw.
Am I the only one in the world that thought that opening segment was too contrived?
Yes.
The board has lost its mind.
Well, if you thought it was contrived, then the answer is yes.
This wasn't contrived, Vinny?
This opening segment was fantastic. So, there's a steel cage around the ring.
I like Craig's wink at me there, but go on.
John Cena comes out to cut a promo inside of said cage. He was sore at the fans. They had booked him in a 3-on-1 match. He asked, "Why did you do that?" And one guy said, "You suck." And I thought, okay, that question answered, segment over. Let's move on. Cena kept talking, quoted the Dark Knight, said he had drafted to Monday Night Raw 10 years ago, and in that time he had seen the fans change. He knew his time would not last forever. Talked about all the great young talent ready to take over, like Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns and Cesaro and Daniel Bryan, and yes, Adrian Neville and Sami Zayn. But not Bray Wyatt. He said Bray Wyatt was a dangerous man. He was a dangerous message, and he had a chance to end Bray's message in the cage on Sunday. He kept talking, and then the lights went out, and there was one spotlight on Cena, and you heard one child's voice singing, "He's got the whole world in his hands," joyously. The crowd soon joined in. When lights came back up, there was a choir of like 100 children on top of the stage, all singing along. Half of the crowd was singing with them. Half the crowd was chanting no. And then Bray appeared with his lantern. He led his youth army down to the ring, and the shot, I know the shot everyone has in mind at the end of this, but just as he's walking down the ramp with dozens, perhaps 100 children in black robes singing, it looked like something out of Children of the Corn. This terrified me. So the kids all surrounded the ring, kept on singing. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole C Nation in his hands. Happy kids singing
I should have killed it for you right there.
No, that made it great.
He's got the whole C Nation in his hands.
That's what John Cena calls his fans. And now his fans are in Bray Wyatt's hands. So the lights dimmed again, except for Bray's lantern, and he blew that out, and the lights came back on. All the kids were around the ring in sheet masks. This was awesome. Just standing there, blank expressions, no more singing, silent fear. And then one went to sit on Bray's lap, and Bray started laughing and laughing. And Cena just dropped to one knee, his face in his hand, completely freaked out, completely defeated. This was amazing. Talk all the times about how, sometimes I will say, this was a show, or that was a match. This segment is something I will remember in vivid detail in like 20 years. I really wanted to turn the show off because I knew it was not going to get any better, and I was right. This was great.
What do you think, Craig?
It was creepy. But I always start the show a little bit late, and I made the mistake of going to Twitter and Facebook, and people oversold what I saw on the screen. Now, it was creepy, and when cult leaders have children around, we all know what happens to the children.
Craig, let's not go here.
I know, but it did cross my mind when a young child was sitting on Bray's lap. And
this is the least of my worries. My first question.
You don't have children.
Where did Bray get 100 children?
They're in his cult.
Yeah. They're running around the compound.
There's 100 missing children?
They're not missing. Their families are there, too.
No.
You see the families in the crowd singing along.
Yeah.
So the Raw audience, you're telling me the Raw... Every time someone has an explanation for this, it's even funnier than what I saw on television. So you're telling me that all the Raw tickets were actually just sold to one giant cult?
Well, no, but...
100 kids, two
Bray
parents, a
Wyatt
kid.
went to his compound and said, "Followers, I need your children." The followers offered up their children.
Vinny.
And he left them comps
he
at
took
the
the
ticket
he took
window.
the Raw.
I would accept this hook, line, and sinker if even once it had been explained that Bray Wyatt has a fucking compound with a bunch of crazies in it. When is it? You just made that up.
I did.
Where did they find Bray Wyatt originally? They went to this...
Bray Wyatt was like on a farm with his two crazy friends.
He was on a compound.
He was on a compound.
There were two guys there.
I didn't see any other guys.
Exactly.
His nation has grown. Have you not been paying attention for the past year?
They were in the basement.
Brian,
So are you telling me that Bray Wyatt has a Learjet now while we're at it? How did they get to the building?
A bus. Have you not been watching the show?
He plays guitar, and he has women stroke his hair as he's playing the... he's a cult leader.
Bray Wyatt's compound, as you put it, is the United States of America. And everyone is following under his spell.
Are you following? I got one right here in the fucking room with me.
Yes.
Craig, is he wearing a sheep mask right now? I can't see him.
No, it's just his
I wish
face.
they would have done... You should have heard this stuff on the board. Like, he just went and found a children's choir. That's what they said. Bray Wyatt just went and found a children... Really? I would like to see that vignette.
He just walked into a church and
Yeah,
said,
he just
children.
walked into, Choirs Are Us, and he goes, I need 100 kids for this show.
Or 40.
Or I'd like to see I'd like to see him at Kinko's printing out 100 release forms that all these kids' parents have to sign because he's about to put them on national television singing this fucking song.
You can get anything with comp tickets.
I was not a big... Hey, it was a cool visual, everybody.
It was.
Don't get mad at me. It was a cool visual. It looked really neat, but it was ridiculous. So I expect, Vinny, I will accept all of your opinions, but you better tell me how awesome this Kane segment was, because it was of equal preposterousness.
Forgotten the Kane segment. Oh, there I have it. Okay.
We'll get to that.
All right. Axelback versus Usos for the tag belts. They did all they could to make this seem important. They did the full ring entrances and then introductions after that. So the Usos hit their big double dive spot early, but one of them came up selling his ankle. The doctors tended to him, and his brother was forced to go it alone for a while. And finally, the injured Uso returned to the apron, and he got the hot tag. And he did the kind of selling where he'd run around the ring and hit 1,000 kicks and then stop and grab his knee. Not full dedication to this. And finally, he went down, and then things went back and forth for a while. And the finish was actually great. Axel hit a perfect plex, but the Usos made a tag. And as he's sitting there with his perfect bridge, the other Uso comes off the top rope with a splash and pins him. I enjoyed this.
I thought this was significantly better than that NXT tag. This was a great little match. 2 thumbs up.
I was worried because you were predicting that there was going to be a title change. And after what I had just witnessed with Bray Wyatt, I was fearing that there was going to be a title change and my son was going to abandon me for the rest of the evening.
Well, the word this weekend was they're doing this match on Raw, and it will either be a title change or they're going to do something leading to the pay-per-view. And at the end of the day, nothing happened. They just beat them. So I don't know what happened. I guess they moved him off the pay-per-view because they needed room for minis.
Well, the better team won.
That's true.
Well, that is true. They broke the news that the Sunday pay-per-view would not be available on Dish Network or DirecTV, and they used this quite cleverly as a plug for the network. Which makes sense, actually. Adam Rose hype video. He is debuting next week. It's about time. Cesaro and Paul Heyman had a meeting backstage. Gist of this was Heyman admitting that RVD was right. He was a vicious, ruthless liar. But he did all that to get his men to the top, and he would do the same for Cesaro. Sheamus versus Titus O'Neil.
What a waste of time.
Yeah. Titus ambushed him on the way down. Ref gave Sheamus a chance to back out of the match, but he didn't. And then Titus beat him up for a minute, and then Sheamus did a bro kick out of nowhere and won, and he was still selling.
I just retweeted Emerson dressed as Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania if anybody would like to see it.
I saw that picture.
Spitting image.
Spitting?
Yeah. Looks just like him.
Sure.
There's a spitting image of Fedor behind him as well.
I like that the background to his Twitter page is Al Snow in Dan Severn's corner. Yeah, right there. That's Dan Severn. That's Al Snow.
That is.
Yeah. After the break, Dolph Ziggler was in the ring in street clothes. He plugged the X-Men movie. They played the trailer. Out came Hugh Jackman. Hugh cut a great promo about how amazing the WWE was. Anything could happen there, and they talked about the last time he was on, and he punched Dolph and cost him a match, and Dolph said, well, Jack Swagger kicks harder than that anyway. And I laughed.
What a forgiving guy.
And he said, I got a lot of exposure out of it, and the movie did great. Fans had fun, so who cares?
A lot of good that exposure did him.
Well, that's true. And then this got awesome. Damien Sandow came out to dramatic organ music in the worst Magneto cosplay getup you ever saw. JBL showing more nerd cred than I thought he had. Got an Asteroid M reference in here. So Magneto gets in the ring.
I'm lost.
Says everyone was trembling in fear, except Dolph, who was starstruck. Dolph was very annoying in this segment. He would not let Sandow make his points. He would always try to get in his jokes, but they weren't funny, and it was just guys talking over each other.
I hate people like that.
Dolph was very annoying.
See what you did there?
You know what? I gotta say, I watched this segment, and I'm sure Dolph's a nice guy and all. I got nothing against the guy. But I watch this segment, it's like, no wonder they don't do anything with you. How fucking annoying. This guy's like this all the time.
You are annoying, and you come off like a bit of a dick.
Yeah. Like, why would we want to do more with you? To deal with more of this on a regular basis? All you need is to be pushed. It'll get worse.
This is one of those segments that you're hoping your friends don't catch you watching.
Oh, I don't know.
I'm going to find this on YouTube and send that to my friends.
I wish Whitney would have been here for this segment. She
my friends are
nerds.
They're going to love this. So it did get very stupid for a short time.
Yes.
As he claimed to actually be Magneto and have magnetic powers. And they played a wacky buzzing sound effect, and he pulled Hugh Jackman's mic to his chest.
See, I like this. I hated the sheep masks, but this was good.
This was believable to you.
Well, it's believable because at the end of the day, Hugh Jackman, who is an actor, was acting. He was fucking with the guy. And then he beat him up.
He shoved the mic in his chest, he hit a hip toss, and Dolph hit the zigzag, and that was that.
Yeah. And then Dolph made sure to take his shirt off.
He did take his shirt off for absolutely no reason.
Yeah. Just because he's got abs. An infuriating fella. Like I said, I'm sure he's a nice guy. But can you imagine every day having to deal with him as your top guy? You'd kill yourself.
I love your build him up before you tear him down mentality.
Well, I'm
sure he's a nice guy, but
someday, anyway.
That's Brian's version of no disrespect.
Yeah, no disrespect. I'm sure he's a great guy.
Okay.
Network, by the way, is showing Big Show versus Floyd Mayweather. I don't know if either of you ever went back and watched this. This is a great match. This match is awesome.
We almost got killed at this show, Vinny.
How so?
You remember the pyro landed about 3 rows in front of us?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. We could have died. People were sent to the hospital at this show.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's sad. Jack Swagger versus Cesaro. So Heyman came out bragging about Brock Lesnar's win. He promised to never do it again, which as soon as he said that, I said, I can't wait to see how he breaks this promise. And he started bragging about Cesaro's WrestleMania win. So what you've got here is Heyman, who the fans hate, and Cesaro, who they want to cheer. And he's fighting Coulter and Swagger, who they also hate. And the result of this was that they didn't know what to do, and it was just kind of quiet. So they wrestled for a while, and Heyman attacked Coulter at ringside. This distracted Swagger, and Cesaro hit a German suplex for the pin. And it was funny, because on the suplex, he had Jack by the hips. And Jack Swagger, the all-American wrestler, could not get his shoulders off the mat. That made me laugh. So Cesaro won.
Look at this. You can get a Magneto hoodie at Hot Topic. It's only $35.99.
We are all too old to shop at Hot Topic.
They cut the price from $59.99.
I did notice they came out with a lot of cool stuff at Hot Topic when I hit my mid-30s. Like, why wasn't this when I was in high school?
I'd wear that. Well, not that. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Did Swagger and Heyman. Renee tried to interview Cena backstage. He had nothing to say. Del Rio versus Cody Rhodes. This looked like two guys who, right before they came out, got their time cut in half and decided, we'll do the same match anyway. They went 1,000 miles an hour. I believe there was a chant for Sting here. And then when all is said and done, Del Rio hit a super kick and the armbar, and Cody tapped, and that was it. So it's a completely clean win. Cody was just beaten by a better man. And then when Goldust went to check on him later, Cody shoved him away and walked out.
Man, what a prick.
What a dick.
Does anybody care about this breakup?
It is amazing how far they've plummeted off the radar.
Yeah.
Sucks. These guys are having amazing matches.
For months.
Yes. And now nobody cares.
I know.
Nice job, WWE.
It's lame.
I'll tell you what's not lame. I love Dave, but
there he goes again.
his headlines, this is a good example of it. His headline is Major TNA Angle. So whatever it is, it requires its own story on the front page. Major TNA Angle.
What is it?
There's no such thing as that, by the way, but go ahead.
Breaking news.
MVP turned heel, formed a group with Lashley and Kenny King, and will be feuding with Eric Young over the TNA title.
This warranted its own story.
That's what I said.
How did they get to there?
I guess we'll see how it plays out.
I don't care.
Maybe this will be a major TNA angle. I mean, it is a major TNA angle. I guess that is a factual statement. So what, does MVP bring Dixie back now? I can't wait.
Shut your mouth.
I can't
wait. Bite
wait.
thy tongue. Alexander Rusev versus Xavier Woods. Lana, in her pre-match spiel, referred to Rusev as the Supreme Being.
The Lord?
That seems he's a god now.
Didn't somebody refer to someone as a supreme being at one point?
I think Sid called himself a human being.
That's what it was, yeah.
So I don't know why this match happened. They've already booked Rusev and Woods versus Woods and Truth in a 2-on-1 match. So clearly him versus Woods 1-on-1 is not a fair fight. And in fact, Truth attacked him for the DQ, and they worked together to knock him out of the ring, and Lana pulled him away. And I don't want to shock any of you, but the crowd didn't respond to these two babyfaces ganging up to beat up one heel.
Come on!
I know, it's hard to believe.
Are you kidding me?
Hard to believe.
Rusev took a heck of a bump off the apron to the floor.
He should. It's his first bump.
That's a big man to be bumping like that, though.
He is a big man. It was World Wish Day, so they showed Cena granting three Make-A-Wish kids' wishes. And it showed the kids in the front row having the absolute time of their lives. And I can't believe there's people out there who think John Cena should turn heel. Are you watching this segment? Come on now.
Don't get me going on this thread again.
Renee interviewed RVD backstage. He said he would beat Wade Barrett in the tournament finals. And then Zeb interrupted and said, we have a common enemy in Paul Heyman. We should join forces. And Rob said, no.
No, Rob pulled a Bryan. I'm sure you're a nice guy, Zeb.
Yeah.
But I'm not interested in your offer at this time. It was the nicest way I've ever seen anybody turn down a heel's advances.
He doesn't want that Republican guy in his grill all the time, telling him to put his weed away.
That is
Who wants
true.
to do that?
I don't think they would.
That would have been a much better promo than the one RVD cut.
Come on, man. I just want to get high. That'll be a drop.
Oh, Craig. Zeb and Swagger were shown plotting their next move after they've been rejected. Los Matadores wrestled Drew McIntyre and Heath Slater. The pre-show match for Extreme Rules is going to be Torito versus Hornswoggle in, and I quote, a WeLC match.
We LC.
Mm-hmm.
Ladders, chairs, and wee-wees.
I certainly hope not. Craig, were you ever to Layla when Wildcard did the footstool match?
I was just talking about it the other day.
Oh, my God.
That was great. Whitney still remembers her favorite match of all time.
I think I was backstage and missed most of it, unfortunately.
The best part was he was going to do a big splash, and he got on the top of this 3-step ladder and then figured, oh, my God, this is too high, and came down a step and then hit the splash.
That is excellent.
Yeah, it was tremendous.
So a brawl between the two little fellas broke out at ringside, and one of the Matadors tried to break it up, and this left his partner alone in the ring, and Heath Slater hit him with an implant DDT and pinned him.
Yeah.
Yes, Heath Slater pinned someone. Then Hornswoggle tried to dive to the Matadors, and they stepped aside, and he splattered onto the floor, and Torito wiped out the heels with a dive of his own, and that was that.
Son's really looking forward to this WLC match, I'll tell you.
Great.
Yeah. I'm not.
Stephanie McMahon came out, called out Daniel Bryan. It was a long delay, but he eventually showed up. He was in street clothes with a neck brace.
He showed up because she said the universe wanted him to come out. The whole fucking universe.
Mars and Jupiter and...
Fuck, outside our whole solar system. The universe wanted him to come out.
The Nebulons really want to see him.
He's a hippie. That's probably what caused him to come out when he found out the universe was beckoning.
So he said Steph was full of crap. Steph confessed that it's true. She and Hunter did not want him to be champion, and they had done a lot of bad things to stop him from being champion. And Bryan started to list them all and said the problem really is not what you put me through, it's what you put my wife through. And Steph said she knew what Bree had gone through. She had ridden with Hunter in ambulances and slept in his hospital room. No one should have to go through that. Crowd did not buy any of this. Bryan did not buy any of this. Stephanie asked him to come down to the ring and look at her in the eyes, and Bryan said, no, I am not stupid. He said he was in no condition to fight, but the doctors had cleared him for Sunday. I love how that works. He vowed to take Kane straight to hell. And Steph said, well, if you can't wrestle tonight, Bree can. I would like, as a sign of my good wishes, I would like to grant Bree a title match against Paige right now. And you can come, Bryan, you can come be in her corner. And they said, fine. So then they cut backstage to this, and they showed that the case that holds Kane's mask was empty.
Oh, no.
Dun, dun, dun.
So does this mean at the pay-per-view that essentially Bryan must unmask and hide the mask, and then he can beat Kane?
Apparently.
Wow.
He rips the mask off him, and it renders him powerless.
It renders
Yeah,
him,
he becomes Libertarian Glenn again.
Yes, he loses his will.
He starts preaching.
So Bree and Paige were actually having a pretty fun little match when Kane's pyro hit. Paige hit a superplex, then Kane's pyro hit. Bryan moved to the aisle to face him, but Kane did not come down the aisle. Kane came up through the ring. He came up through the canvas. He tried to drag Bree under the ring. Bryan saw what was going on, ran in to attack him. Kane shoved him aside, and Bryan went down holding his neck. Kane went after Bree again. Bryan grabbed a giant wrench from under the ring and laid Kane out with it. But then Kane did the Michael Myers sit-up. He hit Bryan with a choke slam. Bree finally just kicked her own way free, so she didn't need Bryan after all. And then Kane set off his pyro. And that was that.
We were busy watching Mayweather punch the poor Big Show with brass knucks.
For real.
Slow motion right to the jaw. He's a tough man.
Sure. He broke his nose earlier.
The angle started with a broken nose for him.
Yeah. That sucks. What are we talking about?
Anyone got any response to this Kane-Bryan segment here?
As Bryan has stated a million times, trapped in a ring.
Yeah.
Yes.
Trapped. And she's so skinny now. How's this possible?
You can't make it up any farther apart.
You could put 6 ropes in there. She should be able to get out.
Yeah, it was goofy.
All right. The trainers were checking on Bryan backstage. Bree was near hysterics. Steph ran in to make sure he'd be able to compete Sunday, and Bryan vowed to be there. He also vowed to make Stephanie regret bringing his wife into this, and Bree called her a bitch, and Stephanie hung her head and walked away.
Steph is such a fantastically unlikable
Yes.
wench.
Yes. And this match is still going to be probably third from the top on this show. But if the finale is Bryan tapping out Kane and leaving him laid out and devastated, then fine.
I think Evolution's going on last.
I do too.
Yeah.
And I think Cena and Bray is going to go after Bryan and Kane.
It's possible.
Depends on how they book it.
It's possible.
It does, Greg. Depending on how they
No,
book
I
it.
mean, no, it depends on who they give the wins to. I mean,
That is true. If Bryan is going to win, because listen, you already know the finish of Bray's match. They're going to be both climbing out, and the family is going to prevent Cena from touching the floor, and Bray will get out first, and he will win, which will not be much of a win, but he will beat John Cena. And then it depends on what they do with Evolution. I actually am expecting Evolution. Well, you know what? Since Batista's leaving, they'll probably beat Batista. So if the babyfaces are going over, then they could do that one last. But if Evolution is winning and Bray Wyatt is also winning, then Bryan actually could go on last. So Craig is right. It depends on how they book it.
Well, when he explained it, it made sense. Cena finally gave Renee an interview.
Oh, God.
And what an interview this was.
Thank God we had that opening segment everyone's so passionate about. Means jack shit now.
rendered useless.
Yeah. It rendered him speechless for 60 minutes. And he was just back to John Cena. He said there had been dueling chants for him, and that meant passion, and that meant hope. What?
This is you know what?
It got worse.
This to me was a very likable John Cena. Because I some people will find this hard to believe, but I'm a very positive man. I like positivity in my life. This fucker found a way to snow himself into thinking that everything was great. You know what I mean? He came up with the most ridiculous, preposterous way to decide that, in fact, everything's going to be all right. Good for him.
I would say a better word, not ridiculous, not preposterous. I would use the word stupid.
Well, if you're a glass half empty sort of fella.
If you're honest. John Cena cut a stupid promo. He started talking about donkeys or some other...
This part sucks.
I don't know. I finally said he would win. This was a terrible promo, I wrote down.
Smiling ear to ear after being so freaked out by the children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what?
He should have said it. It's all a work.
You know, let me get your thoughts on this since you like that opening segment so much, Vinny. I got two other comments on it. Did you not find, forget the singing children, John Cena's explanation of why it was important for him to win this match on Sunday was about as idiotic as this promo right here.
It was no. His reason for why he had to win, it's a little bit silly. It's a little bit over the top, but it does
sort of.
Yeah. Okay.
He said the world would end if Bray Wyatt won this cage match.
He exaggerated things.
Don't say.
But
yeah, I guess technically that's an exaggeration. The world won't end.
The world will not end if Bray Wyatt wins. Worst case scenario, Bray gets more fans.
Plus, okay, go ahead.
No, that's the worst case scenario.
All right, and the other part is, why am I supposed to feel sympathy for John Cena? His big problem was now the kids don't like him too. I don't give a shit who likes John Cena. Why am I supposed to feel bad for him? That's his problem, not mine.
The problem is, Brian, you should feel bad for the children.
The children seemed happy. They were singing.
So did the children in Guyana. How'd that work out?
Wow. Vinny,
he's a cult leader.
I don't know how he's treating the children. They seem fine.
You have great faith in this man.
I do.
Maybe you're in his cult.
Hey, could be. Hey, I buried his promo. I didn't bury his promos, but I was more critical than others of his promos the other day. Where were we?
Bad News Barrett cut a promo from his podium. His promo was that Rob was washed up and he was going to leave him eating meals through a straw.
He's used to that because, it's kind of like sucking on a pipe through a straw.
There's nothing funnier than Craig trying to explain himself. Go ahead and cough, Craig. You know you want to.
Go ahead.
Bad News Barrett wrestled Rob Van Dam in the tournament finals. There was no heat for this early. Rob started his comeback. Cesaro came out to distract Rob. Swagger ran out and attacked Cesaro. This distracted Rob anyway, but then he made his comeback anyway. In other words, this is all a waste of time.
No,
Yeah.
It sets up a 3-way at the pay-per-view.
I would define that as a waste of time. So Cesaro distracted Rob a second time, and Wade got his knees up on a frog splash, and then we hit the bull hammer and won. And I will confess, the crowd did get into Rob's comeback, but otherwise there was just way too much going on, and Cesaro and Rob and Swagger just all kept rolling.
Tell me if this would be too tasteless. You know how they always do these videos of John Cena going to see the children in the hospital?
Oh, no.
What, Craig? You don't even know where I'm going.
Oh, go ahead.
Where am I going?
No.
What if they did a deal where John Cena went to the hospital to visit a child, and the child just goes, I don't want to see you, Mr. Cena. I want to see Bray.
Little tasteless.
Is it really?
It's a little bit... Are you talking about actually using an actual sick child?
Well, it doesn't have to be a sick child. You don't have to say the child is on death's door, but he's making his rounds at a hospital.
But that's where the Make-A-Wish kids, they are that bad off.
I realize that. So that part would be...
Dang.
I'm thinking of a way to show that...
I think there's a way to do it without doing it tasteless.
There's got to be a way to do it that you can... You know what I mean?
Or how
to
about
show
this?
that kids really are turning on John Cena for Bray Wyatt.
How about this? John is making his rounds at the hospital. He goes into a room. He pulls back the curtain, and there's a kid laying in the bed, and he's got the sheep mask on.
Isn't that basically what Bryan said?
The sheep mask. No,
Basically.
no. You said.
Well,
I want to see Mr. Wyatt.
It's the same thing. It's just a different
there's-
symbolism.
I see.
Yes.
Yes.
There's no interaction with
How about
the
if
child.
John Cena goes into the office and he's just going, what do I got to do this week? And they go, we got nothing for you, John. Everyone's been requesting Bray. You don't even mention the kids. It's just everyone. You know what I mean?
Ah, okay.
Good Morning America wants Bray.
They could actually... The other way to do this, you show Bray Wyatt granting Make-A-Wishes.
Sure.
Yeah, that'd work. Shield cut a great promo backstage about how Evolution was the past and they, meaning the Shield, were the present and the future. The only nitpick here is that the theme of this was almost identical to what Wade had said about Rob Van Dam about 15 minutes earlier. Randy Orton versus Roman Reigns. Evolution cut a promo saying, yeah, the Shield took out 11 men on SmackDown. Really impressive. They're almost as good as us, but we're still here, and they're not as good as us. I think they cut a better promo than I did just there. I'm not sure.
Oh, come on.
So they did their entrance, and the Shield came out, and then out came Ric Flair, which was a huge surprise if you don't follow Triple H on Twitter. And he hugged all his Evolution buddies, and he cut a promo, talked about all the great parties and all the great Saturday nights he spent out at the bars and the clubs with Dave and Randy. He turned to Hunter and said, "You're always at home eating a ribeye." Which is true. So finally he said, I am here in this ring, surrounded by power. I am surrounded by dominance. I am surrounded by grace. And he turned to the Shield, and he shook all their hands, and he left as Evolution stewed. And the crowd was just shocked by this.
Anyone else notice Hunter just keeping an eye on Rick the whole time with that Triple H look on his face? Was I the only one?
Like when there's a rotten kid in class and the teacher kind of is, eyeballing him the whole
Exactly.
time. Yeah.
Like Hunter is always thinking,
Yeah.
at any moment, Flair could do something really stupid.
Yes, okay, yes.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And you know what pissed me off while I'm on the subject? That stupid John Cena promo where, they just basically made the whole opening segment, whatever you thought about it, it was rendered just useless because Cena's just happy now. So they did this whole thing with Ric Flair, and then after the show goes off the air, they have the after show for Raw, and they interview Flair, and Flair just goes, I don't read too much into that.
Yeah.
What the fuck did you do the angle for then?
I don't know. So Flair left, and somebody, apparently it was JBL, some people said.
It was JBL.
Going woo a lot.
Annoying.
Badly.
Yeah.
God.
It was Ariane.
I can't say it was worse than Ariane.
Ariane was worse.
It was very bad. So, they're doing this match, Roman and Randy, and nobody cared about it. And then dudes started brawling on the floor, and the place started to wake up a bit. And then Reigns left to brawl on the floor, and the ref just said, fuck it, DQ. That was lame.
I was so looking forward to this match.
Well,
I was so looking forward to this match. And I was sorely disappointed.
They're doing it on the road, and Reigns beats them clean. So I'm sure that's coming at some point.
all right. So they had a brawl, and Evolution beat them up for about an hour or two. And then Shield made a comeback, and Evolution ran away.
It wouldn't have been so bad if the people cared.
Yeah.
The story of the show was a dead crowd. This crowd sucked. And it sucked the life out of some of this stuff.
I counted, they liked Daniel Bryan. They liked one time when Orton hit a pose because he's their boy. I think that was it.
Man, sounds awesome.
Their reaction.
All right, let's play a quick song here, and then we will